How do I deal with what I'm feeling? Maybe I just don't. What you're doing, I'm in ruins, all alone. I'm all alone. And nothing I do helps me forget it by you. You just came out of the blue. If you only knew, let's sit and have a cup of coffee. Let's go to a restaurant, go to a field, pick up some strawberries, then maybe let's fall in love. Sit and have a cup of coffee. Let's go to a restaurant, to a field, pick up some strawberries, then maybe let's fall in love. Sit and have a cup of coffee. Let's go to a restaurant, to a field, pick up some strawberries, then maybe let's fall in love. Deal with the feelings I feel when you come near me. All I can see is you and me together, building a future forever, loving till eternity. I see you, can't you see what you're doing to me? The way you got me, baby, it's like I can't even breathe. You're all that I need, and nothing I do helps me forget it by you. You just came out of the blue. If you only knew, let's sit and have a cup of coffee. Let's go to a restaurant, go to a field, pick up some strawberries, then maybe let's fall in love. Sit and have a cup of coffee. Let's go to a restaurant, to a field, pick up some strawberries, then maybe let's fall in love. Sit and have a cup of coffee. Let's go to a restaurant, to a field, pick up some strawberries, then maybe let's fall in love. And maybe let's fall in love. Maybe let's fall in love. Yeah, maybe let's fall in love.
same things over and over and over again. I read a research project that said the average human being has 167 thoughts in a day. Pretty wild. The only problem is 95% of those thoughts are the same ones they had the day before. So most of us, we all want a better life, but nobody wants to go through change, right? But what I've learned to do is there are ways to change that are actually very pleasurable, that are very fun, and that work, and that are lasting, and they're based on science. And that's why I'm in my 46th year doing this, because it works. I've worked with the greatest athletes in the world, the greatest entrepreneurs, and I've worked with people in prisons and kids, every genre of human. And I've had the privilege of working in 195 countries, every country in the world. We have every country in the world literally represented in this challenge. Give it up for all the countries participating in different time zones. It's, I think, 4 a.m. in Sydney, Australia. I see my friends from Sydney out there. Good to see you guys, Aussies. I mean, people literally all over the world in every time zone participating here. So I will not betray your trust. Even though you didn't pay for this, this is my gift to you. I'm going to deliver for you. But I need you to deliver for you too. Because a lot of times we get caught in our head and think there's something wrong with us because we keep repeating the same challenge. And all it is, it's not you, it's a pattern. And if you can learn what the pattern is, how to change it, my goodness, your whole life can change literally in a few days or a few hours, sometimes in a few moments, when you really change that pattern. And so I want to walk you through those. We're going to have some real practical tools here that we've been able to use and work. In fact, Stanford did a study last year in the middle of COVID, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it tomorrow, but just to give you one highlight, people that went through the seminar 11 months later, while still in the middle of COVID, had a 72% reduction in their negative emotions, 51% increase in their positive emotions. I mean, every aspect of their life changed a year later after one weekend, one 4-day process with me, more than today, more than a couple hours. We go 10, 12 hours a day. That is my only challenge with this. My challenge is how to condense this and really deliver for you. And so today will be probably the longest day because we're going to lay a foundation. But I'm only here to serve you. There's no secondary piece. If at the end of this week you want to join us for our Unleash the Power Within weekend, love to have you. But there's nothing attached to this. We just want to give back to you. There's so many people suffering, and I know you can make the changes that you want in your life. And I saw people, by the way, last night from every walk of life. Some people's lives are just crushing it. They're doing so incredibly well. Some people have lost a loved one, or they've lost certainty, or they lost hope. And this week is about you establishing it. It's not going to be me. It's going to be you. I'm just going to provide you the tools that actually work to make that happen, and maybe some insights that can change our focus. Because think about it. What is your life? We don't experience life. We experience the life we focus on. What's wrong is always available. And right now we're in a season called winter. It's historically a time when there's more fear and more uncertainty. But every season changes. We had, before that, it was great times, great economic times, bull markets, people optimistic. But after the reaping time of the fall, there's always a winter. But after winter is always springtime. And spring's coming. And winter, you never go straight from celebration of fall straight to spring, right? You can't jump over it. But some winters are strong, some are intense, some are long, some are short, but they all end. There's no pandemic that's ever lasts forever. I was telling people that in the second year of the pandemic, and we went through 3 years of this. I said, there's no war that lasts forever. It may last longer than you want. And so this is our chance, you and I, to get so strong inside that if you do well in wintertime and you find the joy and happiness and fulfillment with your family and figure out how to succeed in your career, your business, you're going to find it's really easy to succeed. So, these are the seasons. Spring is easy. That's what's coming. But if you do well in winter, spring and summer are easy. Fall is just a reaping time. And we go through this in different stages of our life. So what I really want to do here with you is really get you to understand that I've been obsessed. Let me give a little background. I've been obsessed for 45 years, going on 46 now, with the answer to the question of what makes the difference in the quality of people's lives. Why do some people, you can give them everything? They can have the greatest family, total love, total support, economic well-being, great education, and they spend their life going in and out of rehab. And then there are other people who life has just hit as hard as you could be hit. They've had injustice in their life. They've been treated horribly. They've been abused in some way. And very often those people become the Oprahs of the world, right? The very people that develop this hunger because they were in pain to just push through and find a way to become more. And then because they've been able to do that and because they suffered so much, they want to make sure other people don't suffer. And that's really been my experience. I'll give you 2 seconds of my background in case you don't know it. I grew up in a very tough environment where, I had 4 different fathers. Unfortunately, they're all good men. They worked hard, but many of them were broke and we had no money for food. One of the reasons I provide now started with 2 meals and then 4 and then 8 and then finally got to now we've been feeding 100 million meals a year through my partnership in Feeding America now for 8 years. We're at 980 million meals. By the way, I'm donating 2.1 million meals in all of your names here out of this program. So it'll be 982 million. So thank you. While you're changing your own life, we're going to make sure some people that aren't here that deserve it and need it get the food that they need. But we're at 982 million meals on the way to 1 billion. I'm about 2 years early, just a little past 8 years on a 10-year goal. And I've already begun a new challenge, and that's a 100 billion meal challenge. I'm finding 100 people to do what I did, 100 million meals a year for 10 years. Because right now it's pretty tough out there. 80 million people usually die of hunger every year. About every 10 seconds a child dies. It's horrific. And it's hard to see. And if you live in a place like America, there's still 19 million children that are food insecure. They don't know where their next meal's coming from. So I was one of those kids, and somebody fed my family on a Thanksgiving when we wouldn't have starved, but we would have had crackers and butter and maybe peanut butter sandwich, but not a Thanksgiving dinner. And this man arrived and delivered this food, and it changed my life. The way it changed my life was not the food. It made me believe strangers care. And if strangers cared about me and my family, then, I want to care about strangers. And it's probably the single most important event of my life. It's why I'm here right now. It's why I'm giving back to you. So just know every act of kindness. I still don't know who did this for us. My mom suspected this woman may have been the one who did, a friend of the family, but she never took credit for it. But man, she unleashed a lot of good in the good that she gave. So, yeah, really good. So we're going to do a lot of good together. And some of the best good we're going to do is you getting back control of more of you, taking yourself to the next level, whatever that looks like, whether it be your body or it be your emotions or your relationship or your finances or your business or your career. We're going to hit them all during these 5 days in just a couple hours a day. Give myself a pretty good challenge. But we're going to really do it. And I'm bringing some really beautiful friends in here as well. Well, one of the beyond friends is my wife, Sage, will join us for the piece on relationships, which I'm looking forward to in a couple days. That's my favorite speaker. No disrespect to anybody else. But also, I'm going to have a few people like Sarah Blakely. Some of you know Sarah. She started Spanx, youngest female billionaire in history. Started with absolutely nothing. Also having Jamie Kern-Lima is going to join us of It Cosmetics. Jamie used to work at Denny's, and she'd listen to my audio programs. That's how we got to meet. And people told her the most horrific things, just like Sarah, like, oh, you're not the face of a makeup company, or you're not skinny enough. I mean, you can't believe the mean things people say, stupid people. But she didn't listen to any of that stuff. She just sold her company for $1 billion also, right? Not bad. Give it up for her. You can't believe it. So, and I'm not doing this to say, oh, you're going to become a billionaire after doing 5 days, 2 hours a day. That's not the point. But I want you to see how people who had no money, no background, nothing, have been able to make their dreams a reality. And so whatever your dreams are, that can be real. And that's not positive thinking. I want you to know I'm not into positive thinking. You might think that if you've never met me. Or you see a stadium and people are jumping and, clapping and all this stuff, dancing around. But there's a science to that. I'm not into positive thinking. I believe in intelligence. I believe in seeing things as they are, but not worse than it is. Do you ever notice how people tend to make it worse than it is? Why do you think that is? Tell me in the chat, why do you think people tend to make it worse than it is? I'd love to see what you have to say. Yeah, they're afraid. Yes, they're afraid of failing. That's all accurate. Good. So yeah, people are so afraid of failing that what they do is they make the situation worse than it is, and then you lose any sense that you can do anything about it. You lose your own agency, your own capacity to shift. And after you get used to it, it becomes a habit of your way of thinking. And so the bottom line is, I like to see it as it is. Call it straight. Let's be honest. I used to say I'm big bone. No, I was freaking fat. That's not fat shaming, because I want to be healthy. I want to be fit. But I had to tell myself the truth to change, right? And then you got to get uncomfortable. Everybody doesn't want to be uncomfortable. No one wants their feelings hurt. But that's BS. Your feelings getting hurt. How many of your feelings get hurt and it drove you to become better in some way? Who can relate to this? Make some noise out there, right? So I'm not here to offend you or do something like that. That's not the kind of seminar this is, so don't worry about that. But it's just, I think I had to be honest with myself. I had to see it as it was, but not worse than it was. Because I'd say, I'm big boned. That was my excuse. Well, I have the same bones and I'm 38 pounds lighter, and that was 40 years ago, right? I've never gone back. But you got to see it as it is. And that's what we're going to do this week. Take a look at where you really are, and then where do you want to be, and what's the gap? And how would you close the gap from where you are and where you want to be quickly, right? The second step, if you're going to be successful at anything, kind of like a mandate of leadership, is see it as not worse than it is, but then you got to see it better than it is, because without a compelling future, people give up. These kids that are so depressed right now, or these kids, I feel so, anytime I can talk to one of them, I do my best to get through to them, who don't want to have kids going forward because the whole world is going to disappear by, disasters in the environment in the next 12 years. It's total BS. But when you believe that, whatever you believe controls you. It controls how you feel, it controls what you do, it controls your results, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so we all need a compelling future, something to deal with. If today is impossibly difficult, we can deal with the difficult today if we have a compelling tomorrow to go for that's real. But without a compelling future, we don't have anything. So you got to see it as is, not worse than it is, then see it better than it is. So you got to target, and then you got to make it that way. And for that, you need strategies, not just enthusiasm. But without energy, you won't do any of it. And that's what you see people jumping and moving, clapping, what we're doing. There's a science to it. And again, I'll explain more of it to you probably tomorrow, and when I'll explain to you what the Stanford study proved. But there's a biochemical change when you move and use your voice and you clap and you dance that shifts the way you are. At a basic level, you know the power of energy in your own life. If you're low energy, you're not going to get up and start a business. You're not going to be a great parent. If you're low energy, your relationship's not going to be great. So for me, early on, I'm looking around trying to say, what am I going to do to make my life better? I've got all these fathers, we don't have food, what am I going to do? And I wasn't popular in school. I loved people, but I remember the most popular kid in school treated me and my friends like dirt. And I was like, how could this guy be popular? He's so mean, right? But it made me interested in psychology. And the other part was, I had a mom who I honor to this day, most beautiful soul. I wouldn't be who I am without her. She's since passed. But she also went through some rough times and did what a lot of people did in her generation. She turned to alcohol and prescription drugs, Valium. And when you put those two together, she was a different personality. So she'd pour liquid soap down my throat until I was throwing up, saying I was lying, and I wasn't lying. And so when the person you love most seems like they're trying to hurt you, you got to figure your head out. But it made me a practical psychologist, because I have a younger brother, 5 years younger, younger sister, 7 years younger, and I want to make sure nothing happened to them. So out of that hunger to find better answers, I started reading every book I could get my hands on. I took a speed reading course. I said, I'm going to read a book a day. I didn't do that, but I read about 700 books over 7 years. But also, I got exposed to a seminar. I didn't know what a seminar was. I'll tell you what happened. I was working as a janitor. I'm going to high school. I'm trying to help my family, working as a janitor on the weekends. And then I was working, as a busboy in this restaurant as well, just trying to contribute so we had enough money for things. And one day, my mom said, this guy, my dad talked about him also, and said he's become so successful, and he buys houses, and he fixes them up and sells them. And he was wondering if you wanted to, work this weekend. He pays really well and moving furniture. And I was like, of course. And my father said, yeah, that guy used to be such a loser, and now he's so successful. So I go there, I work my tail off, and I wasn't that big. I was 5'1" in high school. I'm 6'7" today. I tell people the difference is personal growth. But I had a tumor in my brain. It made me grow 10 inches. But before that happened, I'm a little guy, but I'm a hard worker. And I impressed him. And he's like, man, I'd hire you all the time. And you're amazing. And he says, let's have lunch. And we started talking. And I said, well, I'd love to ask you a couple questions. I said, you're so successful now. You're doing all this stuff with real estate. And I said, my dad said you used to be such a loser, and now you're so successful. And only kids can say this. I literally said this to him. He said, your dad said what? Right? And I said, well, you know what I mean. And he goes, well, your he's being honest with you. I wasn't doing well, and I'm doing great. And I said, well, what changed you? He said, I went to a seminar. I said, what's a seminar? He says, where this man takes his entire life experience and compresses what he's learned to save you time and teaches it to you in 3 or 4 hours or a couple days. And I said, wow. I said, you went to that seminar and it changed everything. It changed the way I thought, the way I felt, my actions. I learned tools. It changed everything. I said, well, I'd like to go to one of those. Could you get me in? He said, yes. But then there was no follow-up. I said, well, will you? And he said, no. I said, no? Why not? He goes, because if you don't pay for it, you won't value it. And I said, I'll value it. Trust me. He goes, no, you got to pay for it. I said, well, how much is it? It was a 3-hour seminar, and it was $35. It'd be like $200 in today's dollars, to give you an idea, right? And I was working $40 a week as a janitor, so it'd be like a week's pay. That's a week's pay. He goes, well, then just keep doing what you're doing as a janitor and take 20 or 30 years and maybe never get these lessons, or you could learn these lessons in a few hours and save yourself a decade. It's like, all right. It was one of the biggest decisions of my life at the time, spending $40, $35, because it was more than that. I had to pay for the gas, right? I'm thinking every dollar in those days. And so sure enough, I go to this seminar and I'm out of my mind, and I read so many books already. When Jim Rohn's speaking, I'm an audience of people, and I'm finishing some of the sentences because I read that book, Think and Grow Rich or whatever it was, right? And I was a little bit obnoxious without meaning to be. I was just so enthusiastic. And afterwards at the break, I went up to him and I let him know that I really wanted to come to work for him. And he looked at me as this kid and said, young man, he goes, you have to go through all my programs first. You got to do all these things. And I said, what are they? Well, my leadership, this and that. And I was like, how much is it? And in those days, it was $1,200. So it'd be like $10,000 today, give you an idea. And I was like, oh my God. I said, well, I'm sleeping in my car right now. My dad got kicked out by my mom. Christmas Eve, she chased me out with a knife. She wasn't going to kill me or hurt me, but I wasn't going back in. And I said, so I'm sleeping in my 1968 Volkswagen now. And I said, I don't really have any money. He goes, well, I'm not your banker. He said, some people have to survive. Some people have to succeed. If you have to succeed, you'll find a way. You've only got a week and a half. So I started going to banks trying to borrow money when I had no money and no credit. And I got really good at knowing they're going to say no, like when I walked in the room. It's pretty obvious. And then I had this moment in my life that changed my life where I didn't even know what it was. Something inside me just snapped because I was running out of time and I knew this was the answer. And I just got myself in this incredibly strong state. And I walked in. I didn't know what changing state was in those days, but I changed my body, went in. I looked at somebody who looked persuadable. And there was this sweet looking woman with gray hair. And I walked straight up to her desk and I said, my name is Tony Robbins, and shook her hand, probably broke it. I was so enthusiastic. I said, I'm here to borrow $1,200, not so I can fix my car, go on a vacation, so I can attend a seminar. And she started to laugh, which was not a good sign, right? But long story short, she says, what are you doing? And so I said, I want to go to this seminar. I'm going to learn these skills of life and time management, this and that. And I said, I'm going to help hundreds of thousands of other people in my life. I wasn't making millions or $1.3 million in 1 week. But that was my view. And I went on and on and on. She looked at my application. She said, you're 17. I said, yeah. She goes, well, you have to be 18 to sign a contract in California. I said, well, I'll be 18 soon. She said, how soon? I said, how soon I have to be 18? And then she looked one more and she goes, well, she looked at my address, and I put an address on Citrus Avenue. It's a giant avenue that goes through 4 cities that I used to live in there. And there are no real apartments. She goes, I didn't know there were apartments on Citrus Avenue. So I just told her the truth. I said, that's 7-Eleven and Denny's is next door. They're 24 hours. I park there at night and sleep. But the mailman, I made a deal with him, and he'll let me pick up my mail there. And she goes, oh, we're going to loan you $1,200 and we can send your bill to 7-Eleven, right? But something in what I was doing, I got really emotional. I was like, I got to do this. I need your help. I'm going to make this happen. You can count on me. And there's this moment of grace where this lady looked at me and she goes, I think you're going to do something with that energy. I'd like it to be something good. She goes, but I don't see how the bank is going to loan you money. I said, please. I said, I will do whatever it takes. And she took a long pause and she said, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go to the bank and try and loan you this money. But if they don't, I will loan it to you. But you have to look me in the eye and swear to me I'm never going to have to come looking for you. And I reached over and kissed her, which I don't think she was quite ready for. Her name was Mrs. Williams. I said, I'll always tell this story. I'll tell people I started all because of you. Little did I know or she know how much that would lead to, right? Pretty amazing experience. So I took $1,200, imagine $10,000 today to go to one weekend seminar and hear this man speak. And I had no money, so I was going to sleep in my car. And I met a young man there named Mike Keys. He's still my friend to this day. He's about 5 years older than I was. He was broke too, but he had enough money for a hotel room. He goes, you can stay in my hotel room. We're still friends to this day. In fact, he's watching from somewhere, I think in Florida right now. So it was precious because I invested so much. It's like I got every word he wrote down. I didn't get up to P. He wrote the. He said the. I wrote the. At one point, I counted up. Every word was like worth 3 cents or something like that. It was just, I was going to get it all. Some people took casually. I didn't. So I don't know where you are in your life right now. If you're in a tough time, I hope that you'll take some notes while you're with me here, because if you listen casually, it's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But you won't remember more than 10% what I say, a month, or what I said a month from now. But if you listen and take notes, just even if you don't read the notes again, writing it down makes you drive the grooves deeper in your mind. So I hope you'll do that. And then if you do what the exercises we're going to do, we're going to engage each other and move your body. Now the body's engaged. It's not passive. See, if you learn in a passive state and you go, wow, this is really interesting. Wow, yeah, I think this is going to be helpful. Man, he's got big teeth, or whatever you're thinking right now. So if you do that, later on you go, yeah, I really should do this. I really should. You have no energy in the body, right? So I took that. I learned from Jim Rohn. I went to work for Jim Rohn. And then gradually, I learned new tools. I learned things like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, how to change the reprogramming of your mind, how to take a lifetime phobia, an uncontrollable response. Some people are in therapy 4, 5, 10 years for, and wipe it out in an hour or less. And it works. It's real. It's because it's directly working on the way your brain links things together or associates things. And I got really good at it. And so I went up to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and I was like, I'm gonna make this thing work. I'm gonna share with people how they can change their lives. And I'm gonna. So I did all these free guest events, and I would do these demonstrations with people. And I got on a couple of radio shows, and that's how my career took off. And on the radio shows was one of those shock jock shows, one of the early ones, and I didn't know what that was. And I thought I was going on for this serious discussion. This guy was just trying to harass me. And I was like, he goes, oh, you can help anyone to change. He goes, well, I have a guest who wants to call in on you. And so this man calls up, he's a psychiatrist, and he says, you're a liar, you're a charlatan, people like you should not be allowed on the radio. And I was dumbfounded. I said, sir, have you ever met me? He goes, no, have you ever met any of my clients? He said, no. Then I said, how can you say that? Because it's impossible. You can't wipe out a phobia in less than an hour, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, sir, are you a scientist? He said, of course, I'm a physician. I said, oh, good. As a scientist, then you would never make an assumption. I said, you must be testing your hypothesis. Your hypothesis is I'm a liar and a charlatan, and you need to test it if you're a scientist, true? And there's this pause. And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, great. I said, why don't you, I'm doing a seminar tomorrow night for free. It's at the Holiday Inn. That's how I used to start my career. I'm going to do a 2-hour free guest event. I'm going to do some demonstrations. I said, why don't you give me one of your patients? Why don't you give me somebody you've never been able to cure? I said, I'm sure you've got plenty of those, right? You want to play hardball? I can play hardball, right? And he goes, well, we all have patients that aren't ready to change yet. I said, well, that's funny. I haven't found any. Of course, only done 3 therapies at that point, but I was very confident, right? And he goes, well, I can't send somebody. I said, don't you have somebody who would like to try something new? He said, I do have this one woman. I said, what's her problem? She has a snake phobia. Now, phobia is an uncontrollable response to a stimulus. And hers was she'd fall asleep and she'd have a dream that a snake's biting her on the face. I don't know if you ever had a dream that's so vivid, but her adrenal glands would fire off and wake her up. And this would happen 4, 5, 6 times a night. I said, how long have you been treating her? And he said, 7 years. And I said, well, bring her down. That should take me, 20 or 30 minutes. And he went, he got really intense, and the radio guy cut him off, says, we'll see you tomorrow night at the Holiday Inn. So my entire career is based on this. So, by the way, in those days, I was trying to get like 50 people to show up for a free seminar, and sure enough, 500 people show up to see the shootout against me and the psychiatrist there. And the room is filled and jammed. I mean, if the fire marshal comes, they shut me down. And all of a sudden, no one introduced me in those days, so I stood up, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, I said, I'm Tony Robbins. Anthony Robbins back then. I wanted to sound more official, I guess. I said, I'm Anthony Robbins. And I said, I want to show you some tools today that you might think would be impossible to change people in minutes instead of months or years. But I said, I'm going to show you and prove it, and it works. And right after I start to say this, like on cue, like in a movie, The side door bursts open. And I don't know about you. How many of you, if you meet somebody on the phone for the first time, you just hear their voice? How many of you do what I do? I can't help it. I make a picture when they're talking of who they are. Anybody of you do that like I do it too? Yeah. So this guy was so gruff on the radio. I'm picturing this giant man with like a scared woman on his arm, right? And the side door bursts open. It's a guy about this tall. He's got this woman in tow. And he fights through the crowd. It's like a movie. It's dramatic. And he stands right in front of me. I'm on this little stage, not a big one. So I reach to shake his hand. He won't even shake my hand. He just goes, "Here's the woman. Hey." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Ma'am, why don't you have a seat here?" And I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you heard me on the radio the other night?" And almost everybody raised their hand. Yeah, that's why they were there. And I said, "Well, this woman, ma'am, I understand you've had a phobia for many years about snakes." And she goes, "Ah!" and starts shaking and spitting. And I calmed her down, took about a minute and a half, calm her down. I said, "I just want everybody to see what that is." I said, "Now, you've been treated for how many years?" She's 7 years by that psychiatrist right there. Right? I was just putting everything on the line. And I said, "Well, let's go to do some techniques." And it took me about 15, maybe 18 minutes. This is not because I'm special. The tools anyone can do them. But I was willing to put myself on the line. And at the end, I went, "How do you feel about snakes?" No response. She goes, "Wow, that's amazing." I said, "That's great." But I came prepared. So I said, "Just hang on a second." And I walked behind her, and there's a desk back here. And I grabbed the bag, and as I pull it out, the bag is moving, and the audience understands what's about to happen. And I reach in. It was a little gardener snake. And I pull out the snake, and I said, "How do you feel about snakes?" And she didn't scream or spit or any of that stuff or freak out. She just pulled back. And the snake's still in front of her. And I said, "How do you feel about snakes?" She goes, "They're not very attractive." Right? And I said, "Okay, but look, you're not spitting, you're not shaking, none of that's happening. I know you're uncomfortable. That's natural. I'd be uncomfortable. Right? But I've handled them a few times now." I said, "What do you think it'd feel like to conquer your fear? What do you think it'd feel like to hold this snake?" And she goes, "It's not very attractive." And the audience starts going, "Hold it, hold it, hold it," right? And she goes, "Okay," and she grabs and starts to squeeze it. I said, "Don't kill it," right? And then sure enough, right, that became my signature. So I do event after event, and I was doing every kind of work you can imagine. I did with people that were smoking. I did with people addicted to drugs. And then I started getting a chance to work with people like Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa. I'm old enough, in the 1980s, 84, they had the Olympics in Los Angeles, and I worked with a guy who wasn't supposed to make the swimming team, and he won in the 1500 freestyle gold medal. And then as I got greater results, things got bigger. And I got to reach more people. And then I started starting companies because I studied the patterns of business. And I became successful in that area. And so it just grew and grew and grew to where we are today. But it's all patterns. That's what I want you to understand. All the things that you think are you that you don't like are just patterns. And we can change those. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to be changed. And I'm not here to be your guru. There's nothing wrong with you. But we can change the patterns that don't work. And we all have them. And if you don't have them now, you'll probably pick some up along the way. So we have to know how to shift those, how to make them go. And we also have to know that as the world changes, as it has, we have to be able to change our blueprint, our way of operating. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen like a Baja race, Baja, 1,000, 1,000 miles in the desert, or the Le Mans 24-hour race. If you take your car, even if it's a Mercedes, and try to do those races, you're dead. You have to re-engineer that car. Or there's some races they do in the deserts, in the Sahara deserts, and they have these giant exhausts that go like 10 feet in the air so that if they get in the sand, the engine will still work. Well, you and I have to re-engineer for winter. And again, winter's not forever, but we got to get stronger, we got to get wiser, we got to retrain ourselves. And if we really do that, everything that we can think of in our lives will change. And so what I'm really focused on here is the unshakableness, again, doesn't mean that you don't have fear. It just means you use courage. You follow me? It's like if you don't have, you can't have courage if you don't have fear. If you're not afraid, there is no courage. Courage is I'm scared to death, but I do it anyway. So part of what I want to do with you here in this little bit of time we have together is lay a foundation, and then each day we're going to learn some skills, some insights and skills. And then I'm going to give you a challenge. And that's your pay for this. I'm not asking anything from you financially, but I'm asking you to pay yourself by saying, I'm going to take what I learned today and do one little thing that's might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's going to make me grow. Who's up for that out there? Who would be up for making that happen? Let me hear you out there, ladies and gentlemen. Let me hear it. way, once you understand patterns and you learn to change yourself, isn't that the greatest gift you can give your children? Now, you can tell your kids all day long how to be, but if you change you, they see it and feel it. That's the greatest gift you give your husband or your wife or your coworkers or your employees. So when we get you to change, when you get yourself to change, you're going to have more to give everybody else. And that makes change so much more enjoyable. Because if it's just for you, you might not do it. But most of us will do much more for others than we will do for ourselves. That's one of the beautiful things about human beings. When we get out of our selfishness, we all get selfish at times. Like, how many of you do way more for your kids than you would for yourself? How many can relate to this here? No BS, right? That's the beautiful thing about human beings. So if you really want to have the greatest experience, recognizing those patterns will work. And by the way, once I figured this out, I get the call. I've gotten the call now for 40 years almost, 35 of those 46 years at least. About 10 years into my career, I was producing such results. I get the phone call when the athlete was burning down on national television. You know, Serena Williams, her sister was killed. She couldn't get on the court. And I got to step up and deliver right now. And the whole world's watching. If I don't deliver, she can't get on the court. And then she goes and wins. Or I go and I deal with somebody who's suicidal, a child or an adult. And knock on wood, tens of thousands of them. In fact, we have films of them. We train therapists in this now around the world. They get credits for this, education credits, to give you an idea. How many of you I don't know how many have seen the Netflix documentary, Tony Robbins, I'm Not Your Guru? Any of you seen that out there? Yeah. You'll actually see the interventions that I do, and then we did a follow-up with him 2 years later. We just had a 5-year anniversary and got to see all these people's lives, and we got to see their lives still are changed half a decade later. So it's all available to you. I get the phone call, true story, when the President of the United States calls me and says, they're going to impeach me in the morning, Tony. What should I do? I've actually gotten that call more than once. There's only a few people that have gone for impeachment. But I'm talking about Clinton the first time. I'm 32 years old. The President of the United States says to me, Tony, they're going to impeach me in the morning. What should I do? My first response was, could you call me sooner? I mean, tomorrow morning. But by being in those pressure situations with athletes, with sports teams, with business people, with politicians, I develop skills. When you play with no net, when there's nothing to fall back on, it's amazing how God and the universe will support you if you're truly trying to serve. It's just about your ego or looking good. You know, it's not going to work. And I've failed at plenty of things. It's not like I've always succeeded. But I've gotten back up and not called a failure by learning from it and then gotten better. That's the process. So I said it's all about patterns. So if we're going to create some breakthroughs, who wants a breakthrough? Who doesn't want to just learn more? Who wants a breakthrough in your business, your life, your relationship, right? If you're going to have a breakthrough, then there's a couple things that are needed. But one of those things is really being able to see that there's 3 skills that you need to master. If I were saying to you, I have 5 kids and 5 grandkids. And COVID blessed me in one way, which is I've spent most of my life living around the world, going to 15, 16 countries, doing 275 days a year on the road. And then all of a sudden I was home. And then I found a way I could still reach and touch people. And so my wife and I have been talking about wanting to have a little one. You know, I already had 4 kids and 5 grandkids. And we decided to go for it, and God blessed us. So I now have a 21-month-old that came out of the COVID period here, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty beautiful. My daughter. I have a 48-year-old daughter and a 20-month-year-old daughter. It's quite a span, right? So how does that work when I'm only 62? Well, I married a woman early in my life who had 3 children from 2 different husbands. And so I was 24, turning 25, and had a 17-year-old son, an 11-year-old daughter, a 5-year-old son, and then a child on the way. So I've had some growing that I did in my world to make that happen. So when I think about my kids and my grandkids, I'm sure many of you have seen Oxford has published this. I think Harvard's done a study where they're showing over the next 15 years roughly, about 45% of all jobs that currently exist are going away. Why? You're going to be replaced by robotics, by AI, by algorithms, by nanotechnology. The amount of change that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years is greater than all of humanity's time. You know, I read a statistic, I think it was in 1920, you know, the amount of information that we had doubled about every 20 years. Now it doubles every 24 hours. That's the world we're in. So change, you know, people always talk about, you know, I don't know if I want to change. I don't care if you want to change. Change is coming. Change is automatic. If you don't do anything, your body's going to change. You know, your relationships are going to change. How many think the economy is going to change? It's going to get worse and going to get better. It's going to go up and down, right? We're probably going to have some recession if we don't already have it, but it's not forever. You know, we're resilient human beings. If you study history, it's cyclical. So, change is automatic. Progress is not. If you want progress, you've got to invest in yourself. You got to push forward. I remember I just saw recently there was an interview that was being done with the Oracle of Omaha, and he's talking Buffett about the experience of what should you do with inflation. Inflation's 7 or 8%, and he said, invest in yourself. When I first met him, I said, what's the most important investment you made? And I thought he was going to say Coca-Cola, or I thought he was going to say something like Geico, because I'm familiar with those investments he made. And he goes, that's what you do, Tony. I said, well, I do a lot of things. He goes, helping people communicate, own themselves more. He said, I went to Dale Carnegie when I was really young. Without that, none of the other stuff would work because I wouldn't have the ability to communicate. And he goes, he told people just recently, invest in yourself because it's not taxable. When you get more skills in this area, they give you returns for years. And if you're the best doctor, the best lawyer, the best webmaster, the best nanny, the best anything, and the dollar became worthless and we use seashells, you'll have the most seashells. You'll always be in demand. So it's really important that we see these patterns. So here are the 3 skills, if you want to jot them down, that I'm teaching all my kids and grandkids and that you and I both need, because 15 years, how many found time seems to go by a lot faster today than it used to in the past for you, right? 15 years from now, you're surely going to arrive. The question's where? And the time to decide that is now. And the skills that you need are 3. So here's the first skill, and it's what we're going to work on this week. It's called pattern recognition. Things look like, if you look at the economy right now, who did I see the other day? Someone did this. I saw a write-up. People are talking about how bad we are politically, how horribly divided we are. And this gentleman showed ads, billboards, or written billboards from the time of Thomas Jefferson and Adams when they were fighting for president. And if you read what they wrote, one was like child molester. I mean, it was the worst stuff you matter. So if you listen to people in the media, you'll think everything's the worst that's ever been. No, it's winter. Spring's coming. We got to make it through winter. And some people freeze to death in winter and give up. Other people learn to ski and snowboard and build a good fire and build a business and be with your family. And winter isn't bad every day. It's just more days of fear and uncertainty. And it's not forever. You can develop that certainty inside. So pattern recognition is every person that can start recognizing, hey, this is a pattern. This has happened many times. This is a pattern in history. This is a pattern in life. The most important pattern in human history that we recognized as a species that changed us was the pattern of seasons. See, we were roaming around trying to find food, forage for food, never staying in one place. Hunter-gatherers, that's how we started. How do we build communities? Only when we learn the power of seasons, when we learn to do the right thing at the right time. See, if you plant in the winter, it doesn't matter what you do. You're doing the right thing in the wrong time, you don't get rewarded. And when they started figuring out, hey, spring is when you plant, and you protect it over the summer, and you reap in the fall, and you better hang on to some for winter, that's when we built communities and cities and countries and became the dominant species on Earth. For better or worse, I'm not sure, but certainly dominant. But it's just that one distinction. So my life is obsessed with finding patterns. And when you look at the economy right now, it's a pattern. It's recognizable. And by the way, winter's not going to end real quick. It's probably going to last longer than you want. But you can make winter your best season if you recognize the pattern, if you do the second piece. You learn to utilize patterns. Because pattern utilization gives you power. Recognizing it alone will get you out of fear of like it's the worst time. It'll keep you from thinking it's all chaos. It's not chaos, it's a pattern. We're not enough time to go through it here, but it's so predictable. All of it's predictable. And if you realize that, then you go, okay, so what do you do in this predictable time to do well? What do you do well emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, in your career, etc.? But the people that are masterful see the pattern and figure out how to use it. It's like, how many of you, COVID was brutal in your life, but you eventually figured a way to use it for something better, like to get closer with your kids or build a new business or create? How many of you found a way to use COVID, not be used by COVID, ladies and gentlemen? That's awesome. You learn to utilize it, and it's not so bad. I mean, I'm here with you because of COVID. I have my baby girl because of COVID. So I could have been destroyed by it. One of my companies lost $100 million in about 6 months because I didn't want to let anybody go. And I was trying to keep things going, but eventually I figured it out. It was a pretty rough year, to say the least. But we found it out. We figured it out. We turned around, found better ways. Now I'm seeing 10 times as many people and also making it more convenient for people. I still do plenty of live events where people come in person, but people can do it from their home in 195 countries. And it's so much cheaper and easier, right? But the third skill is the most important skill of all. If you can teach your kids and learn it yourself, and that's what, after a period of time, you can get to, and that's pattern creation. If you think of somebody who's a great business person, they recognize patterns of need, they know how to use them, and they create things that fulfill those needs. If you look at a great dancer, they know the patterns of movement that move people emotionally, know how to use them, but then they create their own. If you learn to play the piano, usually you play somebody else's music first, and then if you do that for years, there's a point when all of a sudden something strikes inside you and it becomes your music. You start creating things because you've seen enough patterns, you've used enough other people's patterns, that now you're able to be a pattern creator. Now you're truly a musician. And that's what's happened over basically my 45, now entering my 46th year. At this point, I'm pretty good at pattern recognition. I'd have to be an idiot not to be, having worked in 195 countries around the world and seeing everything. The most challenged people, to the most privileged. I've seen them all. I've dealt with, Hollywood executives addicted to cocaine, and I've dealt with people in, Harlem addicted to cocaine, or East London addicted to cocaine. And they all got a reason why, and their lives are completely different financially and everything else. So I want to get to where you can not only recognize, use, but create some patterns. And we're going to start that right now. So how are we going to do that? Well, the first pattern is the most basic of all. And when I tell you it's, you're going to go, big deal, Tony. But I got to tell you the truth, because without it, nothing else works. The pattern that will change your life. If you want to change your relationship or your business or your career or your body or your emotions or be a better parent, the first spot is you've got to increase your energy. Energy is the essence of life. When you're low energy, everything's impossible. Who knows what I'm talking about out there, right? Right? It's like everything's impossible. Have you ever, when you're low energy, you get irritated by things easily. Have you ever snapped at somebody and then felt bad afterwards because it was not them, it was just the state you're in? Who's ever done this out there? Yeah. Who's ever been snapped at? Okay, I got the victims and the volunteers here. All of them. But my point is, you've got to understand that the essence of what's going to make things work is this sense of energy. And think about it. We've had 3 years of being locked up all over the world. And most people have gained weight, not all. They shut down the gyms. They kept open the liquor stores and the weed factories. Right? It's just like, they just came out, Washington Post just came out with a breakthrough story the other day, as if no one already knew this. I mean, most of you know that COVID, the number one thing beyond age, was being overweight or obesity, because it affects your immune system. It's the number one factor of dying of COVID. And they came out with this big article that exercise, after they shut down and they tried to put people in jail who opened their gyms, that exercise can help you avoid dying from COVID. It's quite amazing how powerful it is. Well, it's really moving the body and producing energy. So think about it this way. If you want to have a business or a career, do you want to do business with somebody who's super low on energy? Do you even want to talk to them? Do you want to be around them? Or better yet, excuse my cough. Better yet, let's say you're in an intimate relationship. Now let's try something for a second. I want you to imagine you got two people that you know, or could be you and someone else, who are totally, completely in love. I mean, passionately in love. Not, I love you, but really adore each other, right? Really adore each other. And let's pretend for a moment that they both have taken care of themselves and there's super high level of energy in them. And, that doesn't mean they don't have tasks or challenges, but they got super high energy. They just go for it full tilt. And so what happens? What kind of relationship? Two people that totally love each other, super high energy in a peak state. Are they going to have a good relationship, an okay relationship, a lousy relationship, or a magnificent one? Put it in the chat box. What do you think it's going to be? Yeah, magnificent, of course. But watch this. What if you have two people that still love each other completely, passionately, adore each other, but they've let life and all the things around them cut their energy down so that they're now like feeling, okay, good, pretty good, better than dead, good. How's it going? Good, right? And they still love each other, totally, but their energy's down here now. Is it going to be the same relationship? You and I both know it's not, right? Is it going to be great, magnificent? No, it'll probably be okay and good, even though they love each other. But here's the danger zone. Have you ever had this in a relationship? I'm sure you have. I have. you ever been in a place where you're just burnt out? And if you're both burnt out, you're way down here. Your energy's through the floor. Everything's stressful to you. Your reaction to everything's there. And now the same two people that totally love each other, are they going to have the same level of relationship? This is yes, this is no. Tell me which one. Are they going to have the same level, yes or no? No way. And you know that intuitively. So energy is life. So then the question is, how many of you have days where you wake up and your mind says, let's go get them, and your body says, I can't get out of bed? Who knows what I'm talking about here, right? Or how many of you have days where you think to yourself, I don't want to talk to people today? Who has days like this? Make some noise if you have days like that, ladies and gentlemen, right? But if you're a human, and you're going to continue to be part of life, the government's not going to keep writing checks like they did for 2 or 3 years. You're going to have to go to work, right? We all know that. And if you go to work and you fake it, oh yeah, I'm great. How are you? I'm great too. We all have giant bullshit meters today, don't we? So that doesn't work at all. So you got to make a legitimate, true shift inside you. That means an energetic change. So in order to do that, I guess you'd have to say, if I'm low on energy, where does energy come from? Tell me, put it in the chat box here. I'd like to see, where do you think energy comes from? I want to see your best answers there. Where does energy come from? Okay, wow, I'm seeing a bunch of people saying food. Okay, let's address this for a moment, okay? Food is a source of energy. Is the source of energy? No. I'll prove it to you. How many can remember your last big holiday in America, like Thanksgiving, or around the world like Christmas? Who remembers your last holiday? Come on, create some energy out there, ladies and gentlemen. And when you have this big holiday, usually you have a holiday feast, right, with your family or close friends. And when you go to do that, let's say it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, what do? You go, it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, so I want to be thankful, so I'm going to eat broccoli and veggies, right? No. What's the volume of food that you eat on Thanksgiving or Christmas? What is it, a little or a lot? Usually it's more than you can possibly contain. And at the end, you're like, I'll never eat again. And someone says, pumpkin pie? And you go, okay. But at the end of that, I want you to remember, how many remember how you felt after that big meal? Come on. I want you to think about, at the end of that meal, were you ready to go for a run? You gonna go play some football? Or lie on the couch and watch the boob tube and fall asleep? See, food, I'll give you a better example. How many of you have ever gone on a fast for at least 3 days or more, 3, 4, 5 days? Who's done this? Tell me, put it in the chat box so I can see you out here. Did your energy, after the first day is tough, sometimes day and a half, but by the second or third day, did your energy increase or decrease with no food in your body? Which one? Show me, which one? That's right, massive increase. You got no food. That's because the way most people eat causes their body to use so much energy for digestion that it drains the energy. It's like when people come back from lunch and they need a coffee to keep it going. So that's a whole nother subject, but it's not the source of it. Now, some people I saw said sleep. Who's ever slept 8 hours and you're still freaking tired? Let me see a show of hands out there. Come on, make some noise out there, right? So it's not sleep. I mean, if you had a day and you had no sleep, but something happened, woke you up, and you're ready to rock and roll for the whole day, who's had a day like that? You're about to have 5 of them. Stand up for a second and shake your body out just for a moment. Shake your body out. Come on. Come on, wake it up. Looks beautiful. Nice there. Nice energy, Erica. Oh, yes. All right, grab a seat, feeling good? But when you sit down, do you ever notice people after they're all excited and they sit down and go, oh, I'm glad that's over. Now we can go back to the seminar. Sit up in your chair like you're in the command chair of your life, so the energy's high. And right now, in your chair, create more energy than when you were standing. Wake it up. Come on now. And make a sound that makes you feel good. Make an out loud sound that makes you feel good. way, energy is a habit, isn't it? It's a habit. I got a question for you, an honest question. If I asked you 2 days ago at the same hour, what was your energy like on a 0 to 10 scale? Where you measure it. 10 is unstoppable energy, 0 is dead. Where would you say you were 2 days ago at this hour? Put it in the chat box. Let's see what we got. We got 5, 7, 6, 5, 5, 7, 8, 5, 4, 5. Show me on the screen how many. What where you been there? Not now, but a couple days ago. What will be the number? Put it up the number. There we go. So I see a 7, I see 4, I see 2, I see a 9, I see 3, I see 4, I see 5, I see 5, I see 5, I see a 10, I see a 9, I see 3. The average is around a 5. So here's my question for you. First of all, if you're in business, you can't manage something if you don't measure it. Does that make sense? And by the way, when most of us get overweight, it's because we don't measure very often. All of a sudden you wake up and go, oh my God, I'm 10 pounds overweight, 15 pounds overweight. But if you measured each day and paid attention, you could fix it before it got out of control. Same thing's true with everything, but your energy is the most important one. So here's my question. If the average is 5, and I'm seeing all these numbers, some are 3s and 2s, let's give it a 5. Here's my question. Would you ever really want to date a 5? You want to do business with a 5? Would you want to be a 5 parent on a 0 to 10 scale? No, so we need to shift it. So how do you shift it? Well, here's what's ironic, and you'll understand why we're doing some of this movement. Emotion is created by motion. Energy is emotion. It's energy in motion. The way we move, the way we breathe, the way we use our voice totally changes our energy in a second. If I came out this morning and said, good morning, thank you for joining me. I'm Tony Robbins and you're not. And over the next 17,000 hours of this seminar, right? So sometimes I'm going to ask you to make a sound. In fact, right now, no matter where you are, just try something. Make a sound of total excitement out loud. Go for it as loud as you can. Make it sound of excitement. Do it again and really enjoy it. Total excitement, energy. Come on, go for it. All right. Did your energy go up or down? Which one? Of course it went up, right? Now, it's a habit, so you got to start measuring yourself, and then you got to just do some things. So one thing you can do, let's try something real fast. Stand back up just for a minute, just for a moment, if you would. Please stand back up. Wherever you are in the world, if I can't see you, please stand up so you get the benefit of this, because if you don't physically activate your body, you won't feel the same result. You'll get some interesting information, but it won't stay with you. So what I want you to do is really simple. I want you to, if there's someone in the room with you, you can point at them, but most of you I can see are alone, and I want you to point at somebody on the screen, whether they see you or not. And if you're at home, you can point at somebody or nearby, and what you're going to say is, I own you. Go for it. Try it. Say it. Do it a little louder. Go. I own you. Oh, do it with intensity. I own you. No, I own you. Now, let me tell you what we're doing here. Are there any competitive people in the world out there? Any of you competitive people? Okay, good. The word competition in Latin means to conspire together. So we compete to conspire to make each other better. If I push you hard in basketball, you got to get better. I want you to push me hard so I get better. So one way we'll do this a couple times over the weeks is just real fast. It'll take us like 10 seconds. It'll just be creating a new habit. We'll stand up, we'll go, I own you. Now, if you don't have anybody around you, just point at the screen and imagine somebody there, or you can say it to me, I own you, Tony, right? I own you. And then that means I'm challenging you, you low energy person, right? And then all we're going to do is for 15 to 20 seconds, you're going to jump, leap, and celebrate and use your voice like a little kid celebrating, like your sports team just won a national championship, like you just achieved your greatest goal, like you had the greatest orgasm of your life, whatever would have floated your boat. But I want you to really go for it like a little kid, not like a boring adult that goes, yeah, that was great, right? Who's willing to go for it for like 20 seconds here? Who's willing to make it happen? Stand up, wherever you are in the world, point at somebody and go, I own you, baby. No, I own you. No, I own you. All right, let's clap, and then on 3, we do it. 1, come on. 1, 2, 3, go. Wake it up. some energy. Devin, do it. Oh, yes. Get a virtual high five, or if they're with you, high five and say you rock, baby. So do I. And grab a seat feeling strong now. And don't let the energy drop when you sit down. There you go. 10 seconds in your chair. Keep the energy going in your chair. Come on, here we go. 1. All right. So now, in a higher energy state, let's talk about something that usually takes your energy down, and that is loss. How many of you felt some sense of loss in the last 3 years? Loss of freedom, loss of money, loss of business, loss of family? Who's gone through loss? So there's a pattern that we go through when we have a loss. You've probably heard of it. Most people call it the 5 stages of grief, and they're predictable. The first pattern is if you get some major loss, the first is shock, and you don't even believe it's possible, right? You just don't even believe it. It's denial. It's a shock, and you're like, no. Who knows what I'm talking about? Who's had this experience, right? Somebody died, you got fired, your company, went through something, whatever. And we just don't want to experience it. It's just too abrupt. But then go ahead, put the second stage on there. What happens? Well, after that, then we tend to get angry, or at least frustrated, or some anxiety. But usually there's an anger there, like this shouldn't have happened. And by the way, people get stuck, don't they? Some people get stuck in shock, some people get stuck in anger. And after you experience enough anger, your nervous system is exhausted, so it goes to a different place, and it's a lower energy. It's sadness or loss or the feeling of depression. In the denial phase, you don't want to experience the loss. In the anger phase, you're still fighting it. You get in that sadness loss phase, boy, it's pretty low. And some people get stuck there. They stay depressed. They stay sad. They stay lost. In fact, most people, we'll talk about this in a couple days. We'll show you the stats, but people go and get traditional therapy and get drugs. And some of those drugs that people take, it says right on the side, create suicidal thoughts. It makes it worse. It's crazy. So, and yet, it was the cover of Newsweek only, I think, a month ago. They did these meta-studies and showed these SSRIs. They don't work, but they're still giving them to people because they don't have a better alternative. So we'll talk about that tomorrow and show you the alternatives. If you make it through the loss and depression, the way you get through there is you go to that 4th stage where you start to kind of bargain. Okay, God, if you'll let me do this, I'll do that. Or if I'll make this happen, you bargain with yourself, you bargain with God, you bargain with the universe. But eventually, if you're going to get to a place of at least balance, you get to a place of acceptance where you don't like it, but it's like, God grant me the serenity to know the things I can change, things I can't, the courage to know the difference, take those actions. Some of you know that serenity prayer. There's an acceptance. And boy, if you're an achiever, acceptance is not usually something most of you want to go for, right? I don't want to accept this the way it is. But you do have to accept something to complete it so you can let it go. But most people get stuck in anger or sadness or maybe acceptance. And I don't think that should be. I believe there's a 6th stage that takes you out of grief, and that is creation. Creation. The way you get the life back and make it better in spite of all that's going on is you create. You create something new. You create a new business, new relationship, a new opportunity, something that comes, I believe, out of humongous, horrific pain. Good must come. Out of injustice, good must come. And not by demanding, but by creating something that creates something good. Who's up for this? Who likes this idea here, ladies and gentlemen? So, my way of looking at that is, how do you create a breakthrough? And that's what I want to focus on for this little session with you now. What is a breakthrough? Everybody says, I'd like a breakthrough, but what is it? Do me a favor, put in the chat box your definition of a breakthrough. I'd like to see what your definition is. I'm seeing people still talking about the losses here, but tell me now what your definition of a breakthrough. Okay, an insight. Okay, immediate change. Okay, what does that say? That one's hard to read. Okay, this one's saying understanding a deeper truth, a massive change in your behavior. Okay, all those are really good examples, I'll give you my definition, if I may. There's no wrong definition. In my life, a breakthrough is a moment in time. It's a moment in time when everything changes in your life. And it changes because what you thought was impossible, you now know is possible, and most importantly, you act on it. You don't just think about it, you do something. See, you're stuck. People get stuck in sadness. They get stuck in acceptance. They get stuck in anger. But in order to create something new, you just got to know your whole life can change in a moment. If you don't like your body, change it. If you don't like your relationship, change it. Maybe start by changing you, because otherwise you'll throw your pendulum and just find somebody else. After a while, you have the same problems, right? If you don't like your business change, you don't like your career change, you don't like your income change, you go, Tony, well, that sounds so easy, but it's not like that. Yes, it is. But in order to do it, you got to create a breakthrough. You have to find something inside you, that moment where you know that you can absolutely change, and not only can you, the impossible is possible, and you do something. You take action. Now, all of you have had moments of breakthroughs in your life. How many of you have had something in your life that maybe you struggled with for years? A change you wanted to make, needed to make, and you just didn't do it. You came to the edge of doing it, and then you procrastinated or put it off, or you gave up, and then were mad at yourself. But eventually, one day, something happened that pushed you over the edge. And in one moment, you said, not another day, not another hour, I'm changing this now. Who's done this somewhere in your life, ladies and gentlemen, with your body, your relationship? How many of you have ever been in a relationship way too long where you knew it was wrong? You knew it was wrong for you, it was wrong for them, but you stayed. Why? Because this need for certainty, that basic human survival need of certainty. Well, I'd rather deal with the devil I know than the devil I don't know. Maybe being alone is even worse, right? But maybe one day, things change, because you used to say, oh, it'll get better in the future. Or I remember it used to be better in the past. Because see, when there's pain in the present moment, we can escape the pain by going backwards or forwards. Humans can do that. We can make up a future, whether it's true or not, or we can remember a good moment. But you may have had a day one day where you finally said, it's been painful in the past, it's painful now, it's painful, I am changing this now. That's usually a moment of a breakthrough, because you now just decide. You don't even know how necessarily, but you're going to change it, and you do. So here's what I want first. I'm going to give you 3 questions, I think, here. And what I want you to do is, by the way, what can create a breakthrough? It can be a conversation with somebody. It could be an insight. It could be reading a book. It could be attending a seminar. It could be a movie, right? It could be something that challenges you. It could be meeting somebody that inspires you because they're doing things differently. And you say, man, if they could do it, I could do that. Who's ever had an experience like this, right? Or maybe it was enough emotion in you that just did it. But here's what I want to ask you. I'm going to give you a couple questions. I want you to write them down for a couple moments, and then we're going to process them. So first, I want you to think of a breakthrough in your life that you struggled with for a long time. So what was the area where you struggled, but you did create a breakthrough? I want you to write down, what is that area, right? And my question for you is, you may have worked at it a lot and didn't change, but then it changed in a moment. I know you could say, well, I made all these changes, but there was a moment when you finally said, enough of this, and you did something. What made you change in that moment? Was it anger? Was it frustration? Was it inspiration? Was it seeing a new example of what's possible? What made that change in that moment? You could have changed all those other times, but you didn't. So let's take a look, because what we want to do here, guys, is recognize your own patterns. Because if we can find out how you made a breakthrough years ago in one area, we can use that same pattern to help you have a breakthrough in a new area. So the second question is, the moment of change, what triggered it? What made change a must? We all know when he says, I should do this and I should do that. I should spend time with my kids. I should lose weight. I should work out. I should make more calls. I should. You don't actually change, just what I call should all over yourself, right? But when it's a must, when you say this must happen now, and it truly is a must, you find the way, don't you? So what made it a must? What pushed you over the edge? And then the third question is, what made it possible so it lasted? Was it a new belief? Like you suddenly believe, no, this is what I'm made for. Or was it a new strategy? You learned a tool that made it possible? Or was it a new insight? Or was it a new emotion? That's, man, once you felt that, you're never going back. So we're just going to take 3 quick minutes. I want you to jot down, sit up in your chair so you got some energy in you. And I want you to write down what was the area you had a breakthrough, you struggled with for an area, but you finally broke through. And then I want you to write down what made you change in that moment. What triggered you to finally say enough of this and change? What made it a must? And then third, what made it possible? What made it last? Was it a new belief, a new emotion, a new strategy, a new insight? Jot it down real quick. We'll put some music on and then we'll process it. What was something you struggled with, but you finally broke through and changed it? Did you stop smoking? Did you change a relationship? Did you shift something in your business, or your body, or with your kids? And then what made you change in that moment? What triggered you to make it a must? No more. And then what made it possible? And if you want, you can type it in the chat. I'd love to see it if you want to share with me. Nice, Pearl Samuel. Nice. Thank you, Kimberly. What made you finally change in that moment? Put it in the chat box. And what made it last? What finally made you say enough of this? Wow, 130 pounds. Nice job, Rosalie. Too much pain. That's nice. Great shares. Mary Ellen, alcoholic for 8 years, and decided you deserve better. Gave the ultimatum and made it happen. Beautiful. Congratulations. Angel says, I filed for divorce. I knew I couldn't explain why, but I knew this had to stop now. Beautiful. About another minute and a half. About a minute left. Put it in the chat if you'd like to. I went from victim to victor. Nice job, Jess. New faith, a new belief. Myself. Inspired by someone else who lost 75 pounds. Nice. 30 seconds. Get it down. If you had time to write down a second one, you could do it. See if you notice a pattern. John Verforla. Wow. Lost 90 pounds in 2 years. Health is wealth. I decided to do it. Step up. Nice job, brother. I turned fear on itself. Nice job. I started thinking about what life was going to be like if I didn't change. Good job. 10 seconds. All right. Create a little energy in your body, in your chair real quick. Wake it up in your chair again. Wake it up. right, let's take a couple quick samples because here's what we want to see. Let's see if we notice some patterns here, and if you don't, I'll point them out to you. But let's just take a couple examples. So let's bring somebody up on screen. I think staff, pick somebody there. Raise your hand if you'd like to share in the Zoom rooms. We can take shares from you. We can all see you and hear you. Let's bring up, yes, let's bring somebody up here real quick. Now's the time. There we go. Give her a hand. It's Christina. Christina, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Where are you in the world, Christina?
I'm just outside of Denver, Colorado.
Give her a hand in Denver, Colorado, everybody. Tell me, what was your breakthrough? What did you struggle with, and what finally made you just deal with it, and then what made it possible?
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Tony. So my daughter, and if I get emotional, it's because I'm so passionate about my story. My daughter passed away when she was 3 from pediatric cancer. And after she passed away for a couple of years, I was really struggling with that connection because after the year mark, the more time that went by, the further I felt like I was getting away from her. So I took your workshop, and I had been taking a lot of personal growth workshops, but I finally connected with her through your workshop. And I know it was because of the energy, because I was in my peak state, and I heard what you had to say. And let me tell you what you said. You said, make your worst day your best day. And then I can't remember what you said after that. And I had no idea what was going to happen if I did that, but I was determined to do that. And so I relived the day my daughter died over and over. And what I came to realize was it's my greatest achievement to date. It's the day I am most proud of in my life so far. I had the courage to help my daughter die peacefully at home when I didn't think I had anything left. For 3 years and 17 days, that would be worse. That would be worse than losing a child. I'll never give up. I'll never give up on the joy that I had with her. I also think what would be worse is if I didn't live my life to the fullest after she died. So that's why I'm here. I'm living my life to the fullest with my daughters. I'm enjoying every moment. I'm creating purpose, helping other people go from grief to gratitude, and they're passing on the message. And I think that's where it becomes worth it. You said to us, Tony, you said, when people hold on to pain, people will hold on to pain till they find something they value more.
More than the
pain. And I value my family and raising my daughters right now more than I value a life of pain because of my daughter.
You're a beautiful soul.
And I'm so grateful.
Christina, you inspire us all. When did you was Unleash the Power of the Wind? How many years ago was this? When did this happen?
Actually, I did it during COVID, and I was activated with the military, and I wouldn't have been able to attend anyway. But I was so grateful that you offered a virtual Unleash the Power Within. I shared all of my revelations with my military unit, and I felt so good after that. And I've continued to be part of your community, and I have an endless amount of gratitude for you and what you've brought to my life. And I've created a new purpose, and I'm really grateful. This is my daughter. Her smile is priceless to me. And I'll always think about
you have other daughters? Did I hear you have other daughters alive today?
We adopted a daughter after my daughter passed away. So I have a 5 and a 7-year-old.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I live for every moment with her. And I never think about the time I didn't get. I only think about all of the smiles that I got in those 3 years and how she's changed my life forever.
I think there's probably no one watching that hasn't had tears, or at least a deep emotion listening to, because I think any of us imagine losing our child is beyond imagination. And your courage and your faith and your ability to take control of your mind. That experience you're talking about for me was when I was feeding people years later, and I was, I showed up the first time to feed a family, and I was wearing a t-shirt and jeans. I didn't want to know I was the giver, but I wanted to see the faces of the people. I wanted to give back. And I remember there were 4 children there, but this woman who didn't speak English, and it's an experience I'll never get as long as I live. But when I left, I was crying uncontrollably. And I was like, why am I crying? It's such a beautiful experience. Because I found out this woman, after the fact, husband had left her 3 days before Thanksgiving with no money and no food. So it was like God just perfectly put me in that situation. I thought, I'm crying grace tears because I realized my worst day, my father leaving to me was the worst day of my life, was the best day. Because if he hadn't, would I really be here? Would I really care as much? So it's like life is always happening for us. It doesn't look like it often. Sometimes it looks like the worst situation, but it's our responsibility to find the good in it, and not phony good, but real good. And this child that is now your baby girl now is getting all this love as well. I can't compliment you enough. I feel privileged to meet you. I want you to come to my Date with Destiny as my guest, just because I just want to give back to you. I know you'll pass it on to others. So stay on the line with my team, and we'll make sure you come there, kids. Jason, give it up for Jason, everybody. Jason, where are you in the world?
I'm from Hungary, Europe.
You're in Hungary, Europe. Give it up for him in Hungary, everybody. That's beautiful. Well, tell us, what was the thing that you struggled with that you finally broke through? What made you do it that moment? What pushed you over the edge? And then what made it possible to really make it last?
So, Tony, on January 2011, I left my house because I had an 18-year-old. At that time I had an 18-year-old son, and I had a lot of issues at home because of I was not so complete in myself. I was earning so little because I worked as a teacher in Hungary, and the salaries were so little, so I couldn't support my family. I was kicking myself. I was frustrated. I was not finding that joy, peace, happiness in myself. So I decided to leave and run away from the situation like a coward. And I moved into my school, and at that, leaving my family behind, my wife and my son behind. And that was a moment where I did not know what to do. I gave up everything. I was in a very hopeless situation, sitting on my bed. And that was the moment I seen one of this free session in January at that time. And those 5 days changed my life completely. I went from a hopeless situation. I found hope in your words. I always kept asking God, why is this happening to me? Why is this always happening to me? I'm unlucky. Nothing good is happening in my life. And when you said those words, that life is always happening for you and not to you. And that was the moment everything shifted. I shifted everything here, and my life started shifting completely.
Wow.
I started. So at that moment in my life, I decided I did not know who was Tony Robbins, to be honest, at that moment. I was just scrolling through YouTube videos and I saw this live session. I just sat through. I was crying and I said, okay, this is something's going on here. Let me watch it. And I thank God that I did that, because at that moment of my life, everything changed. I started thinking more than what I was a victim, honestly speaking. I used to think like a victim. I used to act like a victim. But after your 5-day session, I decided, this has to stop. This has to change right now. And that shift changed my life completely. I went from a hopeless situation. I found hope. I went from a victim mentality to a victor mentality. I moved from being an employee to an employer. Today, I run 6 companies.
Wow.
Life
Holy
with
cow.
you. With you, life will never be the same again. These were your words. And you won't believe, Tony, one more thing, that at that moment, like I told you, the salaries of teachers is peanuts, is not so much. And at that moment, all that I had, my entire saving in my bank account, I saw there was an option to join UPW virtual.
Yes.
And I said, if I join now, I won't have anything in my bank account. But I said, no matter what, I'm joining. I'm giving it my all. I don't know how I'm going to survive, what I'm going to eat tomorrow. I don't care. I'm joining it. And I registered for it. And those days changed my life completely. I came back home.
Hey, I want to hear.
I came back home. My partner opened her arms up. She's like, you know what? I see so much of change in you, because,
So
like you said,
with your
the
family.
energy. Yeah. So
That's
I came
awesome.
back home. I felt so bad that I was acting like a victim and I ran. But because of my 18-year-old son at that time, I said, you know what? How could I do such a thing? Leave him behind. I'm his role model, and he's so attached to me. I need to be there for him. I came back. I said, no more victim mentality. I will think like a victor. I will act like a victor, and I will be victorious. So
That's so awesome. That's awesome. And you know what? So you're back unified with your family, and you said you have 6 companies?
Yes.
So you employ
Not
other
big
people.
As yours.
What's that?
I was like, every single day of my life since then, my prayer has been one thing: God bless me with more so that I can help more people. I can impact more.
Yeah, I wear these little hats a lot of times just because it's easy, because I sweat so much and so forth, and they have a little shamrock on there. It's not about being lucky, because it says on the side of my hats I wrote down there, it says, be a blessing. And underneath it says, and you'll be blessed. And that's what you're doing. Well, listen, brother, I'm so glad I got to hear this pattern. Listen to the pattern again here. So he hit rock bottom. He hit enough pain that he had to change, right? He felt that. That's what made it happen. And then these new beliefs, this new way of feeling, these new emotions entered his life and shifted it all. Listen, brother, I want to thank you, and I want to meet you in person. So I'll tell you what, you may or may not be able to come in person, but now all my events you can do virtually too. So I want you to come to my business mastery program. If you have those business programs, you stay on the line. We're going to give you a business mastery. I want to share with you so you can grow your businesses. Give him a beautiful hand, Jason. Give him a hand, ladies and gentlemen. That's incredible. Beautiful. I'm an emotional guy. Sorry, but I cry when I hear this stuff. It just touches my heart so much because I know what it means. It was gorgeous. So thank you for sharing. And let me give you a shortcut for time's sake here. I've spent my entire life where my focus is I've got to produce the breakthrough now. Somebody calls on the phone, my kid's suicidal. Somebody calls on the phone, the athlete's burning down, the president's going to be impeached. What do I do right now? In order to do that, I've basically tried to study how do you accelerate the process of breaking through. So you don't have to wait until it happens. So let me ask you a question. I think for most of you, the thing that triggered you was pain. You got to enough pain that your brain finally said, I've had enough of this relationship or my body being this way or my income. How many of you got so much pain you finally made a change right now? How many got that? Say aye. Some of you, that's usually about 90% of the population. We don't have to have pain to change, but people tend to get stuck otherwise in comfort. But about 10% of the people usually change because something happened that inspired them. And sometimes it's a combination of the two. But then the second question is what made it last? And that's always a change in one of three things or all three. And I want to give you the shortcut. So from now on, from this day forward, if you go, I'm tired of the way my business is, or I'm tired of the way my economics are, or I want to change how I'm being as a parent, or I want a better relationship, these are the three things you hone on. Now I'm going to give you these three real fast, but I'm going to give you in reverse order of importance. Why? Because I want to give you in the order most people attack them, and you'll see why most people fail. If you change the order, it's like if you know somebody's phone number and you dial it in the wrong order, you don't reach them. If you got a vault and you know the right code, but you put the wrong order, it doesn't work. You don't get the goodies inside. If I said to you, the dog bit Johnny, or Johnny bit the dog, it's the same words, but a very different experience if you're Johnny, right? So when you change sequence of things, it changes the results. And so the number one thing when people want to change, let's say they're tired of where they are physically, their body, or their relationship, or their mindset, they're being sad or depressed or angry, whatever. The number one thing people usually try to answer is the question of how. So they look for a strategy. And that makes common sense, right? I need a better strategy to get this result. Now, I'm a strategist. I've spent my entire life, I don't believe in just rah-rah BS, because in the end, that's nice, you need energy, but you need a strategy to actually make it work. And the wrong strategy is, it doesn't matter how enthusiastic you are. If your goal is to see a sunset, I'll give you a simple, silly metaphor. Your goal is to see a sunset, and you're totally positive you start running east looking for the sunset, I don't give a damn how positive you are. It's not going to work. And there are strategies in life or in business that could save you a decade. I've learned them. So I know how valuable strategy is, but you don't want to start with strategy, and there's a good reason. Because as important as strategy is, if the other two things aren't in place first, you'll try it. Have you ever said, people say, oh, I've already tried that, it didn't work. Oh, really? And what state of mind? How often? What did you change? What did you shift? How did you do it? People generalize. They give it a try. That'll never get the results that you want. For example, most of America, let's use America, we've got 195 countries in this room, and a lot of countries are modeling America, unfortunately, in this area. It's the highest amount of excess weight that's ever been seen in history. It's over 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. It's insane. Now, why is that? Is it because the goal or the strategy or the desire of being fit and healthy is just only the 1% know it? Or it's so expensive to be able to be fit and healthy? Or, it's so incredibly complex that no one can figure it out? Hell no. Or it's so scarce, the knowledge is so scarce. No. If I said to you right now, you told me I want to lose weight, or you want to get fit, how far would you have to go to get help? Most people, there's within a few miles of your home, there's a workout facility or YMCA or something. If not that, you can download onto your phone right now or your iPad 20 books. You can probably go online and get free courses. There's a million ways to do it. There's not one. There's so many ways, and it's available to everybody. Then why are most people overweight? Because it's not a strategy problem for most people. Get that. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you have the wrong strategy. You're running east looking for a sunset, and you're like, why isn't this working? I remember, I don't know how many years ago, it was probably 12, 15 years ago, the cover of Time magazine was the Atkins diet. Anybody remember the Atkins diet? And it said that, I forget the number, I think it said 12% or 15% of Americans are on this diet. It was like the largest number of any diet that had ever been done. And I thought to myself, what are these people doing? Because if you did that diet, you had to pee on a stick because you had so much acidosis to try and balance it. and your breath was so bad no one could get near you. What made you think this was a sustainable solution, right? You lose weight, yes, because you got someone asked you, you pee and get rid of all your weight and you lower your calories, you lose weight with anything. But it's not sustainable. You follow me? So strategy sometimes is the problem. Don't get me wrong. The right strategy get where you want to go, but you don't want to start there. And I'll tell you why. When you've never accomplished something before, like you've always been overweight, or you've always been broke, or you've been through multiple relationships and it's not worked out, you start saying what he said a few minutes ago. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Everything happens bad to me. Nothing goes my way. And once you believe that, it's self-fulfilling. You're not going to change because the beliefs control everything. So the strategy, most people are trying to figure out how, and you can figure out the how, but you don't want to start with how. Write this down if you would. You don't want to fall in the trap of the tyranny of how. The tyranny of how. Because when people are going to get results, they do it because they feel certain and they give their all. When you've not done something before and you're uncertain, or you've lost weight and gained it back, or been through bad relationships, or had a business and it didn't work, or whatever, what happens is we're afraid of failure. And so we don't have the same certainty because we're afraid, and we've never done it successfully. We don't have any history. So the brain goes, okay, I'm going to go lose 20 pounds. I'm going to go make $100,000, $1 billion. I'm going to create this great relationship. And it goes in your brain, and then your brain goes, who are you kidding? How many of you have ever said a goal out loud to somebody, and then afterwards your brain went, who are you kidding? Come on, put it in the chat box if you've done that. Who's done this before, right? So it didn't get into your subconscious where you actually follow through. And so if you think about the greatest leaders in history, if you think of a Martin Luther King, when he gave I Have a Dream, his speech, he didn't know how to solve the problem. He just knew what was important and why. And he believed it with his soul. And by the way, he didn't know how, but not that many decades later, we had President Obama, whether you liked him or not, he broke that color barrier 8 years as president of the United States and was voted mostly by white people. So the world changed, not as fast as everybody wanted to, and there's still plenty to be improved. But it does change, but it doesn't always change by having the how first. It's what and why is first. When John F. Kennedy got up and said, by the end of this decade, we're going to put a man on the moon and return him to the earth, the people at NASA went, there's no way, we don't have the tools. He said, I don't care, this is what we're going to do. That's what makes you a leader. You don't have to know how first, you can get the how. But here's what you do need. You need something more than strategy. You need the right story. When I say story, all a story is an accumulation of beliefs. If you are not succeeding, you had a story. So that last gentleman, if you listen, had a story. And the story that he had was, I'm not worth anything. Life doesn't go my way. He had several phrases like that. How many heard him when he sang it, right? And then his story changed. He could have changed any time, but his story changed to no, I must change now because the pain was too great. I have to find a way. And then he went to the event and he got a whole new set of beliefs, a whole new story he built. That no, the fact that life hasn't gone my way is a challenge of life for me to grow. It's why it happened. It's not that I'm being punished. It's I need to grow. If there's any area of your life, please hear me. If there's any area of your life where you still have pain, I want you to be able to be free of it, but I can only tell you this. You'll hang on to your pain until you find something you value more than your pain, as the First Lady described with her daughter. She decided that it wouldn't honor her daughter to live in pain, and decided to not be grateful for those 3 years would be insane. She decided, I'm going to continue to love the children in my life and still love my daughter. I'm not going to live in pain and give up my life. I value something more than my pain. Most people value their pain most of all. That's why they stay stuck with it. And they build a story around their pain. When someone doesn't lose weight, what's the number one reason they'll tell you? They'll give you a story. What do they say? I've tried what, guys? Put in the chat box. I've tried what? I've tried what? Come on, put it in the chat box. I tried, that's right, everything. Right? No, you haven't tried everything. Have you tried everything? Really? Yes, I've tried millions of ways. Millions? Well, I've tried thousands. Thousands? Well, I'm sure I've tried hundreds. Hundreds? Well, I did do these 2 stupid things that don't work over and over again. That was their idea of tried everything. If you tried everything, you'd be fit and healthy. How many agree with me on this? Make some noise if you agree, ladies and gentlemen. Right? So you have to write down, change your story, change your life. See, that's what happened to both those people if you listened. They both had an event that was so painful, and then they got sick of the pain. They hit a threshold, no more. And the only reason they change is they got a new story, a new set of beliefs about their life. I'm not the victim anymore. Remember, he was the victim leaving his son. And all of a sudden, no, I'm the victor. I need to come back to my family. I need to build. I need to find the way through. The fact things haven't gone my way is evidence that I've got answers. I just haven't come up with them yet. Pain stays until, how many have done this? How many of you have had an event in your life that was so painful you'd never want to go through it again ever? You never want anybody you care about to go through it. But 5 or 10 years afterwards, you look back and go, I never want to go through it again. But I'm grateful to the God or the universe that it happened because it made me so much stronger or it made me care so much more. Who can relate to this that it made you more? You found out what it is. So that's why I don't believe, I know life is always happening for me, not to me, but I've got to find it. That's my job. That's not God's job. That's not the universe's job. That's mine. So if you come up with a different story, if you don't have a great relationship, what do people say? All the good ones are gone, or they're gay and I'm not, or I'm gay and they're not, or I'm non-binary and they're not, or come on. There's almost 8 billion people in this world. There's people out there that you could have the most beautiful relationship with, but your story is because you had so much pain, you don't want to go through it again, so you create a blockage, a story, a set of beliefs that limits you. If you shift that, everything shifts. But once you believe your story, you're stuck. I'll give you an example, a simple example, one you wouldn't even probably relate to. As a kid, maybe you're sitting at the table for dinner and your mom or dad says, and you're really hungry and just starting to eat, and they say, could you get me the salt? And you think to yourself, I'm hungry, I don't want to do this. So what do you say? So, I don't know where the salt is. I don't know where the salt is. You're not lying. You don't know the exact GPS location of the salt. And your mother and father, no, they're putting up with that crap from you. They go, you know where it is, go, get in the kitchen, get me the salt. And so you get up and you, I don't know where the salt is. I don't know where the salt is. In your head, I don't know where the salt is. I don't know. You open the cupboards, look around. I don't know. It's not here. And your parents yell back, it's on the second shelf. And you're going, I don't know where the salt is. I don't know where the salt is. You look, you go, it's not here. They walk right beside you. They reach right in front of your face and they go, what is this? Who's had one of these experiences? Make some noise if you've had one of these experiences. Your eyes saw the salt, but your brain would not allow you to perceive it because you kept telling yourself a story over and over again till you created in psychology what we call a scotoma, a blind spot. It's right there in front of you. Have you ever tried to help a friend and they have a problem, you got the answer, you show it to them and they're like, no, that won't work, I've tried everything. It's because of their story. Divorce your story of limitation and marry the truth that you have unlimited possibilities if you're committed and step up and are willing to do the difficult things. And make it, divorce the story. Don't do like some people's divorce where you go hang out with that person again. This is you divorce this limiting belief, right? I'll give you an example. Sit up in your chair and let's try something. This may not work because you're in a room you know really well, but I want you to try something. Look around the room right now, wherever you are, and notice everything that's brown, even things you may not normally notice that are brown. Look around you, everywhere, anything that's brown, notice it's brown. Look behind you, look around you. Okay, please close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, tell me everything you just saw that was red. Now, if you're seeing a lot more brown than red, say yes for those out there. Good. Now open your eyes. Everyone open your eyes and look for red. Look for red. Anywhere you can find red, look for red, look for red, look for red, look for red. Give me a thumbs up in the chat box or raise your hand, say yes if you found a lot more red now, this second time. Come on, let me hear you out there, ladies and gentlemen. So here's my question. Why did you find more red? Because seek and ye shall find, it says in a very good book called The Good Book, right? So it's like whatever we look for, we're going to find. We'll even find stuff that's not there. I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. Once you believe something, once you lock into something, how many of you saw beige colored things, called it brown just to feel successful? Come on, make some noise if you did it. How many saw burgundy, called it red, just so you could feel more successful, longer on your list, right? So if you start believing the story, there's something wrong with me, you're going to find things that are wrong with you, even if they're not. If you think somebody's horrible, you're going to find horrible things in them, even if they're not. If you believe someone's your friend and they treat you badly, you're going to rationalize they're having a bad day, and you'll find how they're still your good friend, won't you? So our beliefs, our story, are the glue that either holds us in place of limitation or holds us in place so we can go for progress. Because you're not going to implement the story if you believe all the good ones are gone, or I've tried everything. You follow me? Or I'm just not made for this. So what I do in all my seminars, every seminar I do has a section where we shift your beliefs. We find the most limiting beliefs and we annihilate them. I say annihilate them so they're no longer in your body. They're not intellectual. How many of you have some beliefs that intellectually you know better, but emotionally they get you at times? Who can relate to this? Make some noise when you relate to this, right? So you got to break that pattern. And then finally, the order really needs to start with the other S, the first one, which is state. See, your mental emotional state controls everything. The reason we do a little clapping, a little moving, and I'm doing this right now and I've got little small screens, but when we do the seminar, I have 25,000 square feet. We've literally got 20-foot high LED walls. I can see everybody in the world, all of you huge. I can see your name, I see your kids, I see what's going on. So here I can just see the people that are in Zoom. I can't see you guys at home there doing YouTube or Facebook, but I got enough of you to see what's really going on. But what we're doing is changing state. You move, you breathe, you shift everything. Now, and I'll give you an example when I say state. Have you ever gotten pissed off at somebody, really mad at somebody, and then as you get pissed off at them, you can suddenly remember everything they've ever done that's pissed you off? Who knows what I'm talking about? Make some noise out there. Give me some thumbs up on the wall there, right? But look at the opposite. You ever fallen head over heels in love? Who's ever fallen head over heels in love? Come on. Oh, it's got to be more people than that. Do me a favor, just for a moment. I'm going to ask you at different times during this week, do some funny things. And one of them is I'll ask you to make certain sounds and, just instinctively make the sound. And the reason is it causes you to use a different part of your brain, a deeper part of your brain where beliefs get stored. So right now, I want you just for fun, make the sound you'd be making if you're totally head over heels in love. Nice and loud. Go ahead. Head over heels in love. Come on, go for it. There you go. Now, for some of you, it's obviously been a long time based on that reaction. So let's add love and lust, love and excitement, love and passion. This time, really give it your all. Make the sound and celebrate love and passion. Come on. So here's my question. When you're really in love with somebody, what will you do for them? What will you do for them? Come on, tell me. Put it in the chat box. Yeah, that's right. Everything, anything, right? If somebody who totally head over heels in love says, would you take out the trash? We go, take out the trash. Here you go. I'm happy to do it. What else can I do for you? Right? And then, but what happens? After about 7 days or 7 weeks or 7 months or 7 years or 70 years, somewhere between 7 days and 70 years, they go, could you take out the trash? You go, what do I look like, your janitor? I don't know what happened. We used to be so close. We used to have so much passion. Right? So what you have to understand is your state affects your story, doesn't it? When you're in love, what's wrong with the world? We have no money, but we're in love. It's okay. Right? Isn't it true? Who knows what I'm talking about here? Come on, who knows what I'm talking about? So your mental emotional state is the most powerful thing in your life, and most of us let it be programmed by the external world. In fact, most of it's being programmed by the news or social media news. It follows you. Now, most of us know these people in the news and media, they're not bad people. They're good people. They're doing their job. What's their job? Get your attention. They get paid to get your attention. And one thing gets your attention more than anything else, upsetting things. Things will make you angry or sad or fearful. That's why in journalism it's always been said, if it bleeds, it leads. There's millions of beautiful things happening, but you never notice because we don't experience life. We experience the life we focus on. If you're really pissed off, you're focused on the things that upset you and you're forgetting all the things you could be grateful for, like this beautiful woman did with her daughter. And if you're really happy, you're deleting all the things you could be pissed off about and focusing on what matters. You don't experience life. We don't. We experience the life we focus on. But your focus is affected by your state, which then creates a story that controls your focus. And then the strategy is not going to work if your state and your story are negative. You're not going to find it if they're saying it's impossible. Or it never has worked, it never does. It's all self-fulfilling. You're looking for brown, you find it everywhere. You color things brown that aren't brown. How many follow what I'm talking about here? If this makes sense to you, make some noise so I know you got it up there. Good. So think of state as the most important thing of all. And here's what you need to know. Your mental emotional state can be changed so easily, but most of us don't know it. Most of you turn on certain music. That's one way to change state. Some people eat to change state. Unfortunately, that has side effects, especially if you eat the wrong things. That's what a lot of people do. They're emotional, they eat, right? What other ways do people change their state? They change their focus to change their state. They go shopping or do something, right? But you can also change your state in ways that don't have a downside, smoking, drinking, etc. You can do it just by movement. In fact, I've been teaching for 45 years, this blows my mind, that changing your body, called physiology, the way you move, the way you breathe, the way you use your voice, instantly changes biochemistry. Stanford just did the study and showed it again. But it's been about 6 years. I think Harvard did a study and proved what I've been sharing with people scientifically for years. Theirs was just on power postures, they called it. Power postures were, well, let me show you. If you stand up, let's try something just for a moment. Stand up if you would, and I'll show you something. They found that if you stand like Wonder Woman or Superman, with your hands are right here on your hips, your shoulders are back, you're breathing fully, right, your head's up, and you do this just for 2 minutes like this is what happens. Whether you're a man or woman doesn't matter. Your testosterone increases 20% in your bloodstream. Now that gives you drive. The stress hormone, which is called cortisol, drops 25% after 2 minutes of doing this. And your risk tolerance, your willingness to take the risk, is increased by 33%. Now, I don't teach people to stand here, with their shoulders back and do this. By the way, you can do the same thing. The guy who's obnoxious in the meeting, who's got his legs back and his arms back like this, will produce the same biochemistry, by the way. So you can sit down. But what I do is I use movement and your voice. See, the way you move with voice is more dynamic than just the still movement. But they prove that 2 minutes of that alone will change your biochemistry. So when we move, we dance, we clap, we use our voice, that changes a profound change. And again, I'll walk you through this when we walk through a little bit the Stanford study and why a year after the program, a year after Unleash the Power Within, these people's lives are still changed so radically. Because biochemically, you're rewired differently, not by taking a drug, by directly wiring yourself. So your state can be changed by movement, by voice. By the way, what does a person who's depressed look like? If I said to you, I'm going to give you a $100,000 donation to your favorite charity, and there's a person who's depressed behind curtain number 1, if you can describe their way they're being physically, I'll give you the money. I bet you could do it. If they're depressed, tell me, where are their shoulders? Put it in the chat box. If somebody's really depressed, where are their shoulders? And those on camera, show me, where are their shoulders? That's right, they're forward. Is their head up or down a bit? That's right, it's down. In the chat box, are they breathing full or shallow? Absolutely shallow. Are they talking loud or more quiet? Quiet. And are they talking faster or slower? Slower. How do you know this? Because you have practiced this shit at some point, haven't you? Come on. But if you take that same person and you change the way they move, the way they breathe, they use their voice, you instantly change their biochemistry. And now in a new state, you have a different story about life. And now, if I didn't have the strategy, if you don't have the strategy, you'll find it or you'll make one. How many follow this? Say I. So for the rest of your life, this is what I want you to get. For the rest of your life, if you want to accelerate the pace at which you achieve something or you create a breakthrough, first you got to get leverage to say, this is happening now. And then all you got to do is put yourself in the right state. That's why it happens now. You notice she said, the first young lady said that she was there and she had this energy in her body. Well, that's what we were doing in the seminar, and she made the decision from there. If I made the decision from here, it's not going to happen. It's like if you have the perfect dough or pie or whatever it is, and you put it in the oven, and it's supposed to be at 625, and you put it at 25 degrees, you're going to get mush. And that's what people do with their lives. This is 25 degrees. Okay, yeah, right, I know. I've tried that stuff. It doesn't work. Versus, we're doing this right now. And so you got to train that into your nervous system. That's what I do. And that's what we're going to do if you're willing to. A couple hours a day, we'll do this a little bit in and out, not obnoxiously. I mean, my biggest challenge is my shortest thing I do is 50 hours. It's usually the shortest day is 12 hours. And we're trying to do it here in 2 hours and some change on today. So if this makes sense to you, if you say, man, I want to change my body, I want to change my emotion, I'm going to start with my state, I'm going to come up with a better story, then I'll get the strategy. If that makes sense to you and you're going to use this, say I. Say I. Awesome. Now I want to give you one last tool before we go, and this is really simple but valuable. And it's experiential. Because some things, I like to do things where you're not just writing notes, but you feel it. So most of you, who's ever gotten stuck? And you might be stuck right now with something. In some areas of your life are great. Who's ever gotten really stuck? Right? When we get stuck and not able to turn things around, it's not that we're not capable of turning it around. It's just that we get stuck using only a part of ourselves. And so I'm gonna have you try something kind of interesting, and you got to be willing to experiment with me. And if you do it playfully, you'll have a blast and it'll really work. But I'm going to give you 4 archetypes, 4 ways of being that are inside of you. No, there's more than 4. My wife, I think she's got 167. I got different names. I got Sage. I got Bonnie Pearl. Like, I know in the beginning, I'm like, who am I talking to? She changed personalities on me here all of a sudden, right? And I've got some names I won't tell you that are my private names for her, right? But anyway, my point is we all have more than one personality, but when you use one, you get stuck. It'll work in some situations, but not others. So let me give you a practical example. I work with a lot of athletes. So I think a little over 3 years ago, 3 years ago, January, I was working, with an athlete who's pretty famous, and he's part of the UFC, and it's Conor McGregor. And Conor had not fought for a year. He had lost to a previous opponent, and there was really bad blood between them, really bad blood. And he was really angry. And his team called me up and said, Conor's in good physical shape, but we're just concerned. He's got so much anger still, and he's using up all his energy doing that. And he's got this big fight. The guy he's going to fight, his name was Cowboy. This was 3 years ago, January. He said, Cowboy's got all kinds of records. And, he loses this too. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think he will, but we'd love to have you help. So I got to meet Conor. And Conor, if you ever remember Muhammad Ali, if you're old enough to remember him, he put on a show, and Conor puts on a show, a personality. But behind the scenes, he's really a beautiful man. He's a major contributor to all kinds of people's lives. But, if he drank too much alcohol, like most people, he could be a little crazy. And so he decided, no alcohol, I'm going on full tilt, I'm going to win this fight. He was really committed. And so one of the things I did with him, I sat down, I listened for a while, and I said, Conor, I give several things with him, I'll just give you one thing. I said, I've noticed there's a pattern. Your rage and your anger can be useful and can be channeled, but it is so dominant, you're missing other parts of yourself. And I said, so I'd like to try something with you that seems a little weird. So maybe you want to get rid of everybody so you can feel like it's in private. And we're going to do the same thing. And what I had him do is this, I'll tell you, because this is what we're going to do. I had him stand up, and I said to him, here's what we're going to do. I said, I'm going to have you think of a particular part of yourself. And I'm going to ask you just instinctively touch where that part of yourself lives. I know it sounds weird. And then I'm going to ask you to make the sound of that. And I'm asking you to not think, just instinctively do it from the very beginning. And I said, would you be willing to do this? I said, because what you're going to find is there's other parts of yourself that are not being used in your battle, and that's why you're not getting the results you used to get. And so he was really wonderful. We spent enough time. He was open to it. Everybody else leaves, so he had privacy, and we stood up. And I said, so the first part of your personality for all of you is the warrior, if you want to jot that down, the warrior part of your personality. And the warrior is the part of you that will not be stopped. The warrior will push through the pain. It'll push through the challenges. It'll find the way no matter what. It will not give up. How many of you have had that awakened in you by a situation, maybe especially if somebody messed with your family, mamas out there? How many have had that time where it's like you got so strong? Who knows what I'm talking about here, right? I love seeing these mamas that won't put up with us anymore with their kids being taken care of. You see a little mama and she's on fire. She's as strong as any UFC. Why? Because the warrior gets awakened if you start challenging my family, right? You try to hurt somebody I love, as an example. So I said, the warrior, this unstoppable person that'll push through anything, that won't be limited, that will break through anything. I said, where does that person live in you? And I said, just scan your body where, and for him, it was here. He goes, right here, right here. I said, great. Now, this seems a little weird, but I'd like you to please do it and just don't think. I said, I want you to make the sound of the warrior. And his first attempt at that was kind of feeble, and I was like, that's pretty pathetic. And then he made this roar sound that was so intense. So it acted, you understand what's happening? The sound and his body activated. He's touching the point where it lives, and he's activated it with the sound very intensely. I had him do it 3 or 4 times. So it's really there. And then I said to him, I want you to say this. The warrior says, Conor, all you need to remember, all you need to focus on, all you need to do is what? I don't want you to think. I just want you to come from that part of yourself, and I want you to finish this phrase. You're going to say, the warrior says, and you'll say your name. He says, Conor, all I need to remember, all I need to do, all I need to focus on is what? And then he told me an answer. I said, let's do it again. What else does the warrior say? It's all you need to remember, all you need to do. And then a couple times I made him come back, make the sound, so he stayed in the warrior. Because if you get in your head, then you're thinking. It's not the same. So I got him in a spot, and then boom, he got all these great lessons. And I said, now, my guess is your warrior's overworked, that you've used your warrior exclusively, because you used to be known as Mystic Mac. Connor was known as Mystic Mac. He had this ability to almost like read the mind of an opponent. Like he knew where the next punch was coming from. And because he knew, he could anticipate, and that's what made him so amazing. But I said, there's not been much Mystic Mac. But here's where that is inside you. There's a magician in you. That's the second part of your personality to jot down, a magician. The magician is not stressed because the magician knows it's all perception. It's all a story, and it can change like that. The magician knows with a few words, a change in focus, it all changes. The magician knows they can turn a frog into a prince into a frog by saying and doing the same incantation over and over again. They have a smile. There's a humor in the magician. They're humorized by things that other people are all stressed by. Unlike the warrior who's going to push through, the magician will find the answer and just make it happen. And when I told him about that, I said, where does the magician live? He touched his face, and he had this huge smile that you've probably seen him do when he acts like crazy and devious. He goes, that's my magician. I said, okay. So just touch that, and as you're doing it, make the sound of the magician. And he made this kind of sound. It's a totally different sound. Yeah. And he started laughing. I said, no, whatever first guess is, he made the sound, right? And I had him keep doing it several times so he was in the magician. Then I said, now we're going to ask the magician. In this fight, Connor, the magician says, all I need to remember, all I need to focus on, all I need to do is what? And he was in a totally different state. The voice was different. And I'm writing this down. I had a little recorder. And sure enough, wrote it all down. And what else does he say? Put him back in state. What else? And we got about a dozen. And the answers were completely different. The magician said, the warrior's strong. The warrior, we need the warrior, but I will help you find the opening. We will find the answer. There's never need to panic. You had all these great jewels. Different beliefs, different story. Notice the warrior has a different story than the magician. How many see this? Raise your hand if this makes sense to you, right? Makes sense? And the warrior is a different state than the magician. They're both valuable. But if you only do one thing over and over again, you get stuck. Sometimes the magician's overworked, you need more warrior. In his case, it was the opposite. I said, now the third, and let's have you all jot it down, is the archetype of the lover. And I said, the lover is all about love, loving who they're with, loving what they're doing, loving their life, loving every aspect of it, feeling the sense of joy and gratitude and connection and energy. Love is an energy, it's an attraction. So when you love it, I said, so where's the lover in you? And he grabs his heart at that point with both hands. And I said, okay, breathe into the lover. Breathe in that spot. Okay, make the sound lover. And the toughest guy in the world makes this beautiful sound. Do it again, do it again. Now he's in a totally different state. And I said, okay, Connor, say it out loud. Say, the lover says, Connor, all I need to remember, all I need to focus on, all I need to do is what? And he gave an answer, and then another. And then what else? Go back, feel it again, make the sound again. We kept doing it. Give me another answer, another. And some of the answers were, you used to love what you do. You used to love being with your team. You used to love this sport. You used to love to fight. Now you're angry all the time and you've lost the joy. It was beautiful. He got literally a little verge of a tear. And he goes, yeah, that's why I'm in it. Fighting is given. It got me out of the toughest situations. I've been able to do the most beautiful things. I've been able to contribute to other people. I've done well. And I love my people and I love the fight. And just everything about him changed. And so we have one more, the fourth one, and that is the sovereign, the king or the queen within you. You can call it the sovereign, the king, or the queen, depending on what appeals to you. But it's the wise one that has been through the battles and is not fearful. The king or queen is about service. You don't become king by demanding people call you king or I'm a queen. You are the king and the queen simply because you're a servant. The word hero in Latin comes from servo, which means servant. The hero is the person who serves others. And when you become the king or the queen, or you tap into the king and queen that's in you, there's a different level of wisdom. You know that you could lose the battle, but you know you're going to win the war. You know that everything is temporary, that long term, it'll all work out. You know that you're guided. You know what to do. You know there's strategies. So where does the king or the sovereign live in you, or the queen, in this case, the king? He showed me where he made the sound. Same question. What does the king says? Connor, all you need to remember, all you need to focus on. It was a totally different state, totally different answers. Now we have all these answers, and he's opened up parts of his brain. Raise your hand if this makes sense to you. Like all these parts are available. And then we practice saying, okay, what does the warrior say to the king now? What does the king say to the warrior? And it was fascinating because now he's in kind of a little trance state. Okay, what does the magician say to the warrior? What does the magician say to the king? And we wrapped it all up, and at the end, there was this integration. So I showed up for the fight the next night, 15 minutes before. We got him in state in all these parts, and he went out. And the first 30 seconds of the fight, it looked like Cowboy. He beat him to the punch, and like, oh my God. And sure enough, in that moment of what should have been defeat, he found an opening. He saw something instinctively. That mystic Mac magician saw it, and he hotbedded this guy and then punched him. The fight was over in less than a minute. He won the fight, blew it away, went from look like the jaws of failure to victory that fast. And afterwards, it was beautiful. He invited me in the octagon with his victory. We had a great time together. But the best part of it was, he's like, my magician came back out. He goes, and I was there loving it. And my favorite part of the whole thing is, he wins the fight. Normally this would be an ego moment, right? He literally walked over and he gave Cowboy a hug. And he said, man, you've got records I don't have in this league. I just want you to know I honor you. That's one, even though it was a short fight, one hell of a fight. And then he went over to Cowboy's grandmother, who'd raised Cowboy like his mother, and said, I really honor you. Cowboy's amazing. And in the interview afterwards, the thing I was most proud of Connor was he talked about, look, Cowboy's got some records I still don't have. I mean, I really honor the man, but I'm grateful I got to win. It was beautiful. He won the fight because he used all the parts of himself. You get caught in the anger, you're only going to use one part of yourself. How many find this intriguing? I'm curious if you find this intriguing. Great, then let's do this. Stand up wherever you are in the world, and we're just real quick, I'm gonna take you through this, and shake out your body just for a second, shake out your body. In fact, just for a second so there's more energy, point at somebody on the screen and go, I own you, baby. No, I own you. No, I own you. On three, wake your body up, ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Come on. Stand nice and tall wherever you are in the world. Get out of your chair, shake your body out, breathe nice and deep. And then I want you to think about a warrior in you. Whether you're a man or woman, doesn't matter. We all have a warrior. If it's needed, it's there. Let's bring it out for a moment. The warrior is the unstoppable part of you, the part that won't give up, the part that will find a way, the part that maybe you've got you to sign up for this class and said, I don't care what you're feeling, we're going to do it anyway, right? There's a warrior in you. Just kind of scan your body. Where does the warrior live? And then touch that part of you, wherever it is. Touch that part and keep your hand there, wherever your warrior is. That's it. Good, good, good. Different for everybody. Good. Now, touch that area, and I know this sounds weird. I want you to just unleash a sound of the warrior. Just don't even think about it. Make the sound of the unbeatable, undefeatable warrior. Touch that spot, make the sound. Go. Make the sound now. That's it. Go for it. Full tilt. Do it again. Make it louder. Get the warrior out loud. That's it. The warrior. That's it. The warrior. One more time. The warrior sound. That's it. That's it. Now keep touching that. Keep feeling that state. And I want you first to think about something. This is how we're going to use this. What's something you want to deal with in your life? What's something that needs to be handled that you've been putting off? Is there some unfinished business someplace in your life where you need to tell somebody something, you need to end something, or you need to begin something, or you need to start something new, but you haven't done it. You know you need to change it, but you haven't done it. Something's been holding you back. How many got some area of your life where you need to make a change or an improvement or something's holding you back or unfinished business? Great. Then we ask for advice. It'll be about that situation, okay? That situation. So once again, touch your warrior, wherever the warrior is in you. Make the sound of the warrior again, nice and loud as you can. Go, the sound of the warrior. The sound of the warrior. Make the sound of the warrior. Sound of the warrior. That's it, that's it, that's it, that's it, that's it. That's it, that's it, that's it. That's it, that's it, that's it. All right. Keep touching that area, feeling that now, and say this out loud. Say this out loud. The warrior says, and then say your first name. The warrior says, your name, all you need to remember, all you need to focus on, all you need to do in that situation is, and say what first comes to your mind. So touch the area, feel the warrior, and go, the warrior says, all I need to remember, all I need to focus on, all I need to do in that situation is what? And just get that first answer. That's it. That's the first thing that comes to your mind. And then touch it again. Make the sound real fast. Make the sound of the warrior real fast. Make the sound of the warrior. Okay? Keep feeling it. And then let the warrior tell you something else as well. The warrior says, in that situation, all I need to do, all I need to focus on, all I need to remember is what? If you want, you can write it down real fast. Stay standing though, or you can remember it and do it later. All right? Let's do one more. Touch it. Touch where the warrior is. Make the sound of the warrior just for 10 seconds. Go. Make the sound. Make the sound. Okay? That's it. Touch it. Feel it. Finish the sentence. The warrior also says, all I need to remember. Something else that's going to tell me. All I need to remember. All I need to focus on. All I need to really do is what in that situation? And get that answer. It's got the answer. The warrior says. You can write it down, or you can remember it and write it down afterwards. Go ahead and jot it down if you want. The warrior says, what does the warrior say? That's it, it knows. Okay, now we could go deeper. And by the way, if you want to do this later on your own, I'm just going to be tight on time because I'm a little bit over. I want to get completed here, but I don't want you to miss out. There's an application called Otter, O-T-T-E-R. I recommend it. I don't have any investment in the company. It is better than Siri. Its translation is unbelievable. You can turn that on and do this, and you have a transcript right in front of you of what you said. So later on you could do it, but right now just capture it. Okay, shake your body out. Shake it out of that state, totally out of that state. And now we're gonna do, where's the magician? That's a totally different state. The magician is playful. The magician is wise. The magician sees what nobody else sees. The magician doesn't get stressed. The magician knows it's all a story. The magician often is in a playful state. The magician knows change happens in a moment. It can happen in any moment. It could change it all, even if it's been stuck for years. The magician sees what other people don't see. The magician has insight. The magician can turn a frog into a prince or a prince into a frog, and he knows it. Where would the magician in you be? Just scan your body, and then wherever that is, touch that part of you. Where's your magician for you? Where's your magician? And touch that area, and then make the sound of the magician. It's a very different sound than the warrior. Just trust your instincts. What's the sound of the magician? Go ahead and make it. Make the sound of the magician. That's it. Make the sound. That's it. Make the sound. Do it again. Make the sound. Feel the magician. That's it. He's got a smile inside him, that magician. He knows. He can find. She knows. She's got the answers. Good. Now, as you touch that area, I want you to say, think about that situation you've not been dealing with, you need to change. The magician says, all I need to focus on, all I need to remember, all I need to do is what? And give your answer, the first one that comes to the magician. Stay in state. Maybe make the sound of the magician one more time. Make the sound one more time. That's it? Good, and then do it again. The magician says, all you need to remember, all I need to focus on, all I need to do is what in that situation? That's it. One more. Touch that spot, make the sound of the magician real quick, make that sound. That's it, make that sound. And then, okay, the magician says, say it out loud, the magician says, all I need to remember in that situation, all I need to focus on, all I need to do is what? Write down what the magician said just to capture it real quick. 2 or 3 things the magician has told you. Just write it down real fast, stay standing. You can put it in the chat, some of you are, I see that, it's beautiful. Perfect. 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 Just jot it down real quick just to capture it for a moment. I know you can write down more later and you can come back to this now that you know how to do this. All right? Let's go to the lover. Shake your body out of the magician state, out of the warrior state. Where's the lover in you? Where's the one that loves life, that loves who you're with, your friends, your family, that loves the opportunity to grow, to change? Love, that lover in you, the one that appreciates, the one that's grateful, the one that wants to give, not just take. Where does the lover live inside you? Scan your body and then touch where the lover lives, wherever that is for you. And breathe deep into that part of your body where the lover lives. The lover's understanding. Some of you need the lover for you. You've loved others, but not yourself. Feel that lover and make the sound of your lover right now. Just instinctively make whatever sound comes out. Don't care how it sounds. Make the sound of the lover. Make it out loud, though, not in your head. Do it again, a little louder. Make the sound of the lover, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. Do it again. Make the sound of the lover. Feels so good. The sound of the lover. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, as you're touching that spot, making that sound, finish the sentence about that situation to deal with. Say, the lover says, all I need to focus on, all I need to remember, all I need to do is what? The lover says, all I need to focus on, all I need to remember, all I need to do is what? Touch the lover part of you again. Make the sound of the lover again. Make the sound of the lover again. Make it a little stronger. Enjoy it. And then ask it again. Say it out loud. Don't hesitate. The lover says, all I need to remember, all I need to focus on, all I really need to do in that situation is what? Touch the lover again. Feel the lover in you. All I need to remember in that situation, the lover says, all I need to focus on, all I need to do is what? Your lover has different answers than the warrior, doesn't it? And different than the magician. Jot down what your lover said. Jot down some of the things that came to you from your lover real quick while you're still standing. Just to capture them real quick. That's it. Different answers from the lover. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for putting in the chat box. So many of you are putting what your lover said to you. That's gorgeous. Believe in who you are. Feel God's love. Your love forever. Love who I am. And find that love in others. This is beautiful. All right, you got a couple of those down real quick? You can expand that later as well. All right, let's do our final one, the sovereign, the king or the queen. So what I'd like you to do is, the king or the queen, the sovereign is the part of you that knows that no matter how difficult it looks on the outside, nothing is permanent, certainly no problem, no pandemic, no war, no problem in your business, no problem in a relationship. The only thing that's permanent is your soul. That what if problems were just there to make our souls grow, to become more? The king, the queen, the sovereign knows that you'll find the way. And they're not pushing like the warrior, fighting. They're not even just turning at the magician. They just know. They have the wisdom. They have experience beyond their years. A higher level. It's your higher consciousness, not the lower fearful one. It's the faith-filled one that knows, the certainty. Search your body, and where does the king or queen, where does the sovereign live for you? And touch the spot where the sovereign lives for you, wherever that is for you. Touch that part, whatever it is. And then make the sound of your king or your queen, of your sovereign. Make the sound of it. Go ahead, nice and loud. Go ahead, make the sound. Make the sound. That's it. Make the sound. Do it even stronger. The king or queen within you. Make the sound. That's it. That's beautiful. Feel it. That's it. Again, make the sound of your king or queen. The sound of your sovereign that knows, that has no fear. That's it. Feel that. Feel that. Feel the strength of your sovereign, the strength of your king or queen, the power of them inside, the knowingness. And now, feel that part of you. And finish this thought. Say, the king or queen, the sovereign says, all I need to remember in that situation, all I need to focus on, all I need to do is what? An answer from the sovereign, from the king or queen, not from your head, from the sovereign. What would they say? Just don't even think, just do it. The sovereign says, the king says, the queen says, all I need to focus on in that situation, all I need to do, all I need to remember is what? And ask it again, what else, sovereign? What else, king or queen? What else? The sovereign says, the king, queen says, all I need to remember, all I need to do in that situation, all I need to focus on is what? It's just say out loud what it says. Don't hesitate. Don't think. Do it one more time. Feel your sovereign. Make the sound of your sovereign, your king or queen. Touch that spot. Feel it alive. That's it. And now, finish the sentence. The king, the queen, the sovereign says, all I need to remember in that situation, all I need to focus on, all I really need to do is what? And then jot down while you're standing what your sovereign has said, real quick. What did your sovereign, your king or queen say? What do you need to remember? It's different usually. Different than what you've heard from anything else. That's right. That's right. Feel it. Feel it. Good, good, good. Good. Awesome. Jot them down. How many got different answers from your warrior than you did, for example, from your lover, than from your magician, right? How many got some answers you could use to make your life better in this area, ladies and gentlemen? Just try one last one. Bring back your warrior for a moment. Wherever your warrior is, touch your warrior, make the warrior sound. Go. Let's make the warrior sound. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. What does the warrior say? What does the warrior say to your king or queen? What does the warrior say? The warrior says to my king or queen what? And what does the king say to the warrior? Warrior may say, King, I will fight for you. We will find the way. And the king says, I know. I'm there with you. What would your magician say to your king? Magician says, dear king, we can change this in a moment. I know it looks terrible, but the king says, I know, I'm with you. Thank you for your service. What does the lover say to your king? I'll love through this always. The king says, I love you, my lover. What do they say to each other? See if you get another insight or two from that. How many got some nice answers from this simple little process? How many think this might be worth doing a little more depth for you later on? All right, give it up for everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for everybody. Come on, wake it up. Just for a moment before we wrap, stay standing for a moment, shake your body out. And if you're sitting, please stand. I'm seeing you there. I see Marion, Courtney. Stand up if you would, Marion, if you're willing to. Thank you. Only reason, Marion, is when you're sitting down, you're cutting off half the energy. When you stand, your whole blood flow goes. Thank you so much. I just want to make sure you're served. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to close your eyes, stand tall, feeling strong. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that'll lead to your homework here. And the first question is, what has been the story of your life so far? Or what's been the story of limitation that you want to change? Like, what's been the story? It's been a person who, like, remember some people said earlier, life never goes my way, relationships don't go my way, business doesn't, or maybe you've got a good story you'd like to improve. But I'd probably think of a story that's limiting you. Like, what's a belief or story you have about relationships or intimacy or love or kids, parenting, or money, or career, or business that's limited you, or about happiness, or about God? If I had to say, what's the limiting story you used in the past? What's been a limiting story? About a person that struggled with what and couldn't overcome what, couldn't find the way of what? And what role did you play in the story? Were you the jester, the joker? Were you the bishop? Were you the one seeking God? Were you the king? Were you the pawn? Were you the knight? Were you the victim or the victor? What role did you play in your limiting story? What emotions did your old story create? Frustration, or overwhelm, or stress, or loneliness, or sadness? If you thought of the most limiting story that's gotten in your way, when it does come up, it's a story about what? A person who can't do what, or deals with what, or struggles with what, or can't find what, who plays what role, who feels what emotions. And then my second story for you is, what would be your new story? What would be a story that today, if you put yourself in a strong state, make a move that makes you feel strong right now. Make a move. Make a move that makes you feel strong. Make a move. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. Out loud, shout yes. Make the sound of unstoppable intensity for a moment. Make the sound of unstoppable intensity. Come on, like nothing can stop you. That kind of sound. Make that kind of sound right now. That's it. Feel that right now. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Make it louder and stronger just for a moment. Oh. Now, from that state, what's your news story going to be? Remember we said change your story, change your life. What's your news story going to be about a person that used to struggle, but they found the answer? A person who used to feel so stressed out, but now they laugh at some of that crap that used to stress them out. You know, they have that old phrase, don't sweat the small stuff, it's all small stuff, right? Is it the person who uses their magician more? Well, your news story is going to be about a person who does what with herself and their family and their kids, who does what with their body, who does what with their business, does what with their career, does what with their finances, does what with their happiness. And what role do you play in the news story? Are you the lover? Are you the magician? Are you the warrior? Are you the king or queen? Are you all of these? Do you play the strategist? Are you the gift from God? Are you a Lazian or an angel for others that you try to serve? What role do you want to play in this news story? What role will you play that will make your life more fulfilling? And every story has challenges, but in the news story, how do you deal with challenges differently than the old way? What do you do? What do you push through? What do you remember? What's the truth that sets you free? If you want to change your whole life, what's your old story? Exaggerate the limitations and the emotions. What are the emotions in your new story? Your life is about what? Life is about growing or giving or doing what for yourself and others? About enjoying what? What's the role you play? What are the emotions in your new story? Is it excitement, hope? Is it passion? Is it decisiveness? Is it courage? Is it boldness? What are three emotions in your new story that would change your whole life? Being bold, being authentic, being creative, being playful. Faith, determination, right? Love, playfulness. What do you need to add to your story to make this life so much richer? How many have already come up with a new story that's better than the old story? How many have come up with one right now? Put it up there. You can put it in the chat box if you want, but feel it. All right. All right, well, I've gone over by a little bit, but I told you we might go 2.5. I think it's a little more than that. I really hope this has served you today, my friends. If you're my VIP, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for all the sweet words, kind words. I love Well, we've got 4 more days of this. We have some other beautiful guests. Please don't miss. It's costing you nothing, but here's the price. I want you to do something. Who's up for doing something here, ladies and gentlemen? So what I'm going to ask you to do is to take out your phone and tell us what your old story was. Real briefly, my old story was about this limitation, that challenge. I felt these feelings. I played that role. My new story is, here's what my life's going to be about. This is what I'm focusing on. This is the role I'm going to play. These are the emotions I'm going to feel. And then put it in the Facebook group, because I'll be watching them all. I was up all night. Some of you, a few of you I haven't wrote and put little videos to at 3 a.m. So I'll be there too, but my team will. And we're going to pick some wonderful examples, and you'll inspire other people and yourself, but you'll also be putting yourself on the line, making a declaration, right? Here's the old story. Here's what I'm committed to now. So you're going to go there to #new story, And you're going to go there, and it's what's your old story, what's your new story, and how will this new story change your life for the better? And so that's where we're going. Now I'm going to give you KK before we wrap up. She's going to give you a couple quick just announcements. And then we're taking a 5-minute break, or 10, I guess, 5 or 10. And then those that are in Zoom, we have a private Q&A for all of you guys. And I'm really looking forward to spending about 20 minutes with you, 30 minutes with you as well. So, but you can stretch your legs and so forth. So first of all, thank you for letting me come in your homes. God bless you. I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time. Here's KK.
Thanks, Tony. Let's give it up for Tony Robbins, everybody. Day 1 of the Unshakeable Challenge. And give it up to every single one of you. You've been amazing today. Whoa, yes. All right, a couple just quick announcements. Just like Tony said, we're going to bring the slide up one more time so you can see it. This is called your daily challenge to make what you're learning real and integrate it into your nervous system. Tony's going to give you an assignment every single day that, listen, might challenge you. You might have to go live. Maybe you haven't done that before. Maybe you haven't been active in the Facebook group. Speaking to the Hiders Anonymous group, if you haven't yet jumped in and met some friends and allowed yourself to be seen, this is a perfect time. So the criteria, you must use the hashtag #MyStory, because our amazing team is going to be looking through your shares for selecting some winners. We have some epic prizes that we're going to be giving away. You're going to share your old story, new story, and how it's changing your life. You'll go live on video, get some energy in your body so that you're a little electrified as you give it. If that makes sense, say yes. Okay, and then in 10 minutes, we're going to have our VIP session. You heard Tony share this. I want to answer some of the questions that came in about, is it too late to be a part of that? Not at all. What VIP is you'll actually be backstage with Tony in this room for the next remainder of the challenge, next 4 days. It's $47. It gets you backstage inside this room. You get to keep the replays of this entire challenge for life. Who would want just the first day so far? So good you'd want to have it forever. You're also going to have 50 meals donated to Feeding America on your behalf, and then a private Q&A with him every day this week, which means you can track your questions and then ask them live in this room. It's typically $197, about $200 for this challenge, but we're really serious about supporting you guys, especially in this time. So 47, so we can get as many of you as possible with this level of proximity to Tony and for your own results and transformations. This is the last time we will talk about it, so it's tonysvip.com. If you want to upgrade and get in, we'll put that up somewhere for you. tonysvip.com. Again, $47. It's like $9 a day to keep this entire thing for life and really set yourself up in 2023. If that makes sense, give me a wave, my VIPs, so I can see and you're with me. And then YouTube will drop that link in the chat. You have time right now. You can literally go get signed up, and on your confirmation page, there'll be a link that you can join us here in this room in the next 2 minutes or so you won't miss a beat for today. So go get that done ASAP, tonysvip.com. And then finally, we're starting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time on the money. So don't be late, be right on time, because it's your life that you are creating. And we're going to be talking about an unshakable identity. So with this new story, who could you become? It's going to be amazing and mind-blowing, and you don't want to miss it. You have been amazing, outstanding today, and we'll see you tomorrow. But we never leave the room without some energy. So get up out of your seats, shake the body out, celebrate yourselves for a job well done. Day 1 of the Unshakeable Challenge. VIPs, we'll see you in 10 minutes. Everybody else, take this time to get signed up. Tony'sVIP.com. We'll see you soon.